ready to start May 10th, 2018, our work session today, so can we all start by standing to say the pledge? Diane, would you like to lead us?
Certainly, thank you. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So I'd just like to remind everybody that this Sunday is Mother's Day.
I was gonna say.
Please remember to call your mother and wish her a happy Mother's Day. And I believe there's a plant sale going on over at Tanger over there too. So plants are always good. We can begin our planting.
Tim, happy Mother's Day, Tim.
Thank you, Jim.
You know what's coming next month, right?
Yep, yep.
That's right.
For our discussion items today, our first item was the Baseline Health Mobile Home Unit presentation. We have moved that to, I think, about next
Thursday.
next Thursday's work session. So we will start with Johnson Controls.
Looking better.
Good morning. Just, we are on camera, so we're just gonna have you introduce yourself when you come up.
Yes, Chris Fitzsimmons, Johnson Controls, just here today to discuss.
You can have a seat if you like, or if you wanna
I've
stand.
got a presentation,
Okay,
I'll kind of
very
first
good.
out. I think you have that already, there you go. Good morning.
Morning, sir.
The handout is mostly for take-home, just for your personal reading,
Okay.
so. We have a presentation up here. There's a video portion with audio, we're gonna kind of work through it, so.
Okay.
Here
just-
today to speak
Okay, you're
about-
gonna I'll just say that I had met with Chris from Johnson Controls, when we came in, you know, one of the first things was that the heating and the air conditioning wasn't working well. So I had met with, Johnson Controls just to find out about how, as a town, for, an energy audit and efficiency report, how that would be to assess our building. So, Chris has agreed to come in and present, how we can move forward with something like that.
Yes.
Well, our engineering is just running a couple minutes late, so I'll give some more background. Ernesto's on the way over.
Okay, yeah,
Chris is
Ernesto
starting
and Drew had also, they had done a walkthrough.
Yep.
Okay,
And I'll speak to that. Thanks for allowing us
Okay.
to give you this preliminary analysis. I'm going to try to stay out of the way here. Today, we're going to go over infrastructure updates and upgrade possibilities for the town of Riverhead.
You might want to sit down just so that the microphones
Oh,
can pick up
sure.
what you're saying.
Okay.
You gotta get it.
a walking mic.
I do have, he gave me a microphone. Maybe I'll just use that.
There's a microphone on that table, so you
Yeah.
can sit back for
There
it.
you go.
I like to point and run around. So, is this good? Does this work?
Yep.
Oh,
Okay,
my
great.
God, yeah.
Hello. Good morning, everyone.
Hello there.
So today, like I said, we're going to talk about infrastructure upgrades, facility management upgrades, way to save energy, efficiency, introductions. I'm going to go over a quick safety moment. That's what we do in all of our presentations. It's what Johnson Controls likes to do. Our objective, why we came in, who Johnson Controls is, what performance contracting is, our audit review, what we saw, what we found, what we propose the town does to kind of upgrade and energy efficiency solutions, and then next steps. Safety moment is on ride sharing. Okay, we all kind of do it. Uber, Lyft, couple points on it. Get in the right car. Make sure you know who you're with. Be a backseat rider. Just let them do their job. If they want to talk, we know it's, you know, we like to be private and take our rides, but it's fine. Make sure you buckle up. Share your trip details with a friend. Not many people know you can do that. You can send them via text, hey, this is where I am, this is where I'm going, so people know where you are. Protect your personal information. Most apps do that. And if it doesn't feel right, just get out of the car, pull over. You're not sure about it. Little safety moment from us. Okay? I'm just going to read this straight up, if that's okay. We came here to demonstrate how the town of Riverhead can reduce overall operational costs, address town-wide infrastructure needs, and achieve critical facility upgrades challenged by capital constraints through an energy performance contracting project. It's a long sentence, but it says a lot. It says how there's obstacles that need to be overcome, and there's infrastructure needs, facility upgrades and updates that can get achieved through a performance contract. Okay? Now, who we are. Johnson Controls, I think I'm gonna reposition if that's okay.
Yeah.
There we go. Good, better. Johnson Controls is a $32 billion global leader in revenue. We own York, we own Simplex Grinnell, there's Tyco involved. Those are parts of our global company. My division is Energy Solutions and Performance Infrastructure, which is just a part of this global leader, okay? I'm a local citizen, I live in Sayville. I'm a patron of the town. I'm a firefighter in my town as well, so I'm also BPI, Building Performance Institute certified, and I have a degree in LEED GA, which is LEED Building Development, and doing energy efficiency the right way. So that's a little quick blurb about me. Johnson Controls presence looks like that. Performance contracting is our forte on the island. We've done 80% of the schools, we've done towns and villages throughout the island, and kind of a little piece of upstate, because that's my area as well. Looks to me like it's a little bit over $325 million worth of business. And that's positive growth. That's energy efficiency. That's changing facilities, upgrading them. This is just in the Energy Solutions division. This is just my local market team. Strong presence on the island. We have ethics, we have values. Johnson Controls is integrity-based. That pin on my jacket right here, that shows our integrity. I look at it all the time. We work for our customers. We make sure they get what they need and what works for them. This is a little video that's going to start off. It's going to explain performance contracting model, what we did in the city of Louisville. Hopefully it's loud enough.
We really want to get recognized as a leader in the country for energy savings and conservation practices.
When the city of Louisville announced plans to decrease per capita energy use by 25% by 2025, some wondered whether Sustain Louisville was realistic. Louisville had a huge backlog of deferred maintenance in old energy-wasting facilities.
Amongst our peers, I believe we're all facing the same issues. Everybody has a backlog of deferred maintenance issues looming large over our heads.
Even worse, the impact of the economic recession lingered.
Revenues were down. There was limited funds available to address deferred maintenance issues.
Yet today, Louisville Metro government is a model of sustainability for its citizens. The city is funding $27 million in energy savings upgrades at the zoo, aquatic center, fire stations, corrections facilities, and municipal buildings all over the city. And they're doing it without using taxpayer dollars or incurring debt. Instead, they look to the private sector for a novel approach.
We set some really big goals with our sustainability plan, and we were looking for the right partner that could help us achieve those goals.
And so we put a bid on the street to ask companies if they would be willing to put up the capital. And then based on the verification reports and the savings that we generate through this sustainability initiative, we would service that obligation through our operating budget instead of our capital budget.
The city selected Johnson Controls after successfully completing an earlier QECB-funded performance contract. Together in 2013, they developed Phase 2. It was a first-of-its-kind energy savings performance contract for municipalities.
With Johnson Controls, they were able to actually work with us on the financing piece, where they were the ones that took on the burden, if you will, of the debt. So the city is not bonding any of the work. It's all balanced through Johnson Controls and their resources to help do the financing package.
The approach is budget neutral. Payments come from the operations side, and they're based on the savings created from the newly installed systems. The savings are measured and verified.
You set up those measurements prior to the contract, so everyone going in understands what the verification process is. And the monies that are paid back to Johnson Controls are based off those verification reports.
To date, the verified savings are freeing up $2.7 million annually, year over year, to pay for improvements.
Lights. Well, the first thing everybody points to is lights. I'm a mechanical engineer. HVAC is what I look at. Chillers, boilers. That's something that is a big energy use in a building.
So far, the project has generated impressive results. It's reduced CO2 emissions by 20,000 metric tons annually, equivalent to taking 4,100 vehicles off the road. And it's saving water. Plus, the renovations created 400 jobs.
We set a lot of big goals for the city, and some of them are really hard to achieve. Sometimes a partner comes forth that shares that same vision and makes attainment of the goal not easy, but when you have that kind of alignment between vision and partners and execution, it's a beautiful thing.
It may not work for everyone, but we believe that all municipalities that have a significant deferred maintenance issue in their budget should explore this opportunity. It's a true public-private partnership.
The energy-efficient upgrades recently helped Louisville get another building Energy Star certified, with 9 more applications being considered. Just further evidence that Sustain Louisville is well on its way to reaching its goals to become a sustainable, energy-efficient city of choice in the country.
Makes you want to move to Louisville, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So that was just an overview video that I hope covers the angle of attack in performance contracting, okay? This next slide is going to be a visual to kind of put those pieces together financially, how it works. Okay. Bear with me. So you heard the term budget neutral, okay? The top, the project uses guaranteed energy savings, and I'll repeat guaranteed. When we come in and say this is how it's gonna work, it's how it's gonna work. And I'll get into that a little bit deeper towards the end of the presentation.
I think sometimes the mic's working and sometimes it's not, I don't know. Is
I think
there,
Larry turned it up a little bit.
yeah, okay,
Is that good?
yeah, that's.
Okay. So you have your current operational costs. After implementing energy efficient measures that save energy, those same costs will go to fund the project. So you don't raise costs to change all of these equipment measures, facility improvements, energy conservation, lighting, HVAC. You keep the same budget and just put it towards the price of your project, the finance package, which is, dealt out over years. We work out a project that kind of gets everything you want into it, but it has to work financially. If you guys choose to put some money in to get something else done, you could do that too, but it's usually not necessary, okay? So that's kind of the overview of how it works in a nutshell. We have guaranteed savings. They're guaranteed. The energy savings is going to be in writing. If it doesn't work out, we cut you a check at the end of the year. We do measurement and verification of the project, so we make sure we can prove to you that this is working, and if it's not, you get the difference. If you get extra savings, you're welcome, and it happens, okay? Let you look at that a little bit. After the repayment, your operational costs drop dramatically. In our preliminary analysis, it's pretty amazing, the savings that you'll see after the 18-year, I have a 20-year model, the savings are pretty good. So we looked at 9 facilities, and I'll just kind of give you an overview of what can be achieved in our preliminary kind of proposed project, what we think would work with these 9 facilities. How we chose them, we got all the data from Mr. Rosini and Mr. Dillingham, very helpful, they helped us.
Maybe you just want to explain to the board how that,
Sure.
how that worked.
Okay, good. So we were able to sit down with the supervisor and chief of staff, brought in the engineering team and said, hey, we just want to look at some facilities and see if we can get a performance contract together that works to help you guys save energy and money. First part is getting data for all the facilities. Data is electric, gas, oil, any kind of utility data that we can look at to save energy. We looked at it. There were 9 facilities that stood out that we can go and crawl around in and say, okay, we did town hall, of course, we did the police station. You'll see those slides are up next. And each measure that we will put or could put into a project will be up on the screen. Kind of an overview of what could be. Is there a there? There is a there. So, okay. Any questions on that?
Nope.
So here's what we're looking at. Okay, for town hall, of course, you'll see LED lighting. Everybody knows that's a great facility measure to upgrade and save money. Some weatherization. Buildings leak if they're not weatherized correctly. You're heating it, it's leaking out of the doors. It's not good. Energy management. If nobody's here all day, this room doesn't need to be 90 degrees. Boiler replacements. Window film, it helps reduce radiant heat. Motor replacements, obviously, lower wattage. Some power management. Water conservation does help. Plug load controllers, when things aren't being used, like copiers and machines, let's shut them down. There's no need for them to be on. Compressor controllers and air conditioning, and then rooftop unit replacements. Here's the boilers that are in the basement. The rooftop unit is aged, right? It's cute.
That was a Gershaw.
Doesn't look much better.
Items that can be in the project for town hall. We looked at the police station. You'll see recurring items like LED, weatherization. One that stands out here different is burner controls. Again, just making sure the furnace isn't running when it doesn't need to be. Is this room hot all the time? Is it? It's controls. A lot of it's controls. Happens to be in our name. Building department. I know there was an upgrade there and some stuff, but there's still room. Computer management. Window film. Domestic hot water system. Instantaneous heaters. There's a bathroom there that doesn't need to be always hot. Let's kind of manage that heat in the water heater a little bit better. The highway department, a lot of the same measures. You'll see one, the overhead door has a lot of leakage, And you'll also see a new measure, a FIM, facility improvement measure. You'll hear me say FIM a lot. It's the renewable energy, photovoltaic electric generation, solar. Okay. So for the highway department and the next 3 buildings, we encourage solar on the roofs. There's a lot of opportunity for carport items in the town, but we're just looking at basic stuff now. You have 2 buildings. You have the main building and the new building in the back that could house approximately 125 kilowatts of solar. Okay. One thing about solar is the smaller building on the left isn't going to use that much energy. It's going to produce more than it needs. So that extra energy can support town hall, can support the police station. You can use that energy you generate to support usage in other buildings. Net metering, it's called.
Right, okay, I'll ask questions after.
You can jump in if you want, Councilwoman.
I'm just wondering how the energy would be transferred from the highway yard to town hall.
It goes into a bank. So this building would generate electric, and then if the meter spins one way, if you're generating more than you need, spins backwards, it goes into a bank, into your account, just gets credited towards the bill for the other facility.
And LIPA supports that.
Oh yeah, it's called net metering. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, they've been
No,
doing
I'm
it for a
very
while.
familiar with net metering.
Yeah, so that's yeah.
I live in a household thing.
Yeah. Here's the water heater in that facility. Municipal garage. One additional item is the waste oil heater installation. You're carting away about 400 to 600 gallons annually in waste oil. You can put a heater in that reclaims that and turns it into energy, heat, which is a good idea. It's a cost to remove this oil. It's a cost to heat the place. Why not combine? Here's the solar on that facility. LED lights would be in place of those. Metal halides, they produce a lot of heat, so double savings there. Senior Citizen Center, its bills are amazingly high, wild. Just the electric bill was like $50,000, $60,000 annually. But it's busy, and that's great. You want that to be busy. It's a great resource. But there's a lot of room for savings there too. Renewable energy, refrigeration compressor controllers, the community center, a lot of the same items. Some solar on there as well. And exterior LED lighting, safety, you know. Town Hall West has a lot of updates already. I think they've done most of their LED lighting, but there's still room to breathe there. Still items that we can achieve and savings to be achieved there. So street lighting. The town's done about 1/3 of its street lights, I believe. That would also become part of this project. We also call them vertical assets because you could put cameras on them, gunshot detection, Wi-Fi enablement throughout the town. There's ways to get into that connectivity that we support as well. Become a smart city initiative. That's when it kind of grows into that. It's exciting stuff. But yeah, I think there's still probably about 6,000 or 7,000 streetlights that still could be changed. I think that was the number. So these next two items are not in the financial calculations, but it's something that I uncovered and thought I should put up here because these items can be part of a performance contract. Okay? Article 9 New York State energy law allows you to put projects in, items in, that can help get energy efficient measures achieved. So you can put parking meters into your project. It's a good thing. The revenue from the parking meters can help support infrastructure upgrades, streetscape improvements. You don't want to kill them with fees, but you want to support the community a little bit. So, similar to Patchogue and Bayshore, they're showing pretty good revenue on their extra revenue that they put towards their community. And I spoke to Mark in the water department. They're good, the meters are good. It's not a ton of leakage, but there's ways to upgrade them. Right now, there's automated meter reading, where you need to send somebody out with a little thing to pick it up. Automated metering infrastructure is the new stuff. You don't need to send anybody out. It's on a laptop, it's in front of you. You can see when Mrs. Smith has a spike in her water usage. You can help the community kind of manage their water usage. So, something we thought we should put in. So. This is what we found when we got the data, when we crawled around, saw what we can do, how we can achieve energy savings, how we can get infrastructure improvements, facility measures upgraded without touching your budget, without asking taxpayers for more money. Utility spend with the 9 facilities and the streetlights, little over $800,000 annually. We put an average on all of the measures that we would install at a 35% savings. Some are better. Some lighting is double, triple savings. Some are less, but that's energy, that's BTUs, that's costs, that's a lot of maintenance, a lot of things go into that. For a 20-year model, cumulative would be a little under 8 million. You can do the math, it doesn't add up. We put a 3% escalation into each year for energy costs, maintenance costs. Everything goes up. So for this model, we chose 3% as kind of a pretty good guesstimate as to where utility costs and energy and maintenance and all of the operational costs would rise. Past this, we dig in a little bit deeper, and I'll talk to that. We do a detailed energy audit. This is just preliminary stuff to get you guys excited. It's kind of what this is. I'm going to hand out this to you guys because nobody can see that. I'll get that to you after. That's kind of the amortization table of how it would look financially. Basically, it says the savings cover the cost of the project. That's pretty much it. So I'll get that back to you. I printed it out so you guys could see it. So I like to put this slide in to say, okay, what are the cool things about this? There's a lot of advantages, but these are the cool items. When we say vendor and installer neutral, we work with the town to choose our subcontractors. Within a performance contract, you can sub out your work and you don't have to go to additional procurement to get those subcontractors. So we work on the best opportunity. If you guys have people you work with, if there's people you need us to find, there's a lot of measures inside this. So we work together with the engineers, the town, to make sure we get the right people involved. Take care of critical deferred maintenance problems, such as the boilers in the basement here. A plan can be put in place that would get those boilers done before the winter months. Kind of a critical item right there. So, the financial obligation would start after everything's done. So if we come in day one in August and change this to an LED fixture, and it goes from 200 watts down to 40 watts, until the project is complete, you guys get that savings. Your amortization and your payment doesn't start until the whole town-wide project is complete. Free extra savings we don't calculate. It takes time to implement, install. Construction time could be anywhere from 6 to 8 months. Depends on the scope. Turnkey project. You guys get involved as much as you want, and we're there to kind of support it for you. No change orders, one team. The guaranteed performance. We do this all the time. We've done 80% of the school districts on the island, and it's guaranteed performance. If there's a shortfall at the end of the year, which we calculate, it's a check. So it's guaranteed. So before I go to the next steps and kind of plan, if you guys have any quick questions on what I said, I know it's a lot to kind of ingest, but kind of the idea of the plan, is it clear? It's kind of clear, right?
I just have a question. So
Sure.
you lay out all the money for all of these improvements, and then as we start realizing the savings when the project is complete, then you get the savings?
No.
Okay.
They would love
I wish
that.
I could say yes, but no. No. Yeah.
Then how does it work?
So
You
the next
bond it?
steps, right, the next steps, it's a financing package. You would put out an RFP to finance your performance contract and find a funding source to stretch it out over the 15-year, 18-year, 20-year period, whatever works for the project. It's that simple. It's a finance structure where you guys would pay annually to the bank that you choose, okay, or we help you choose. We have a finance division that can help you, assist you to get the RFP out. We do assist in the financial process, but it's totally up to you.
The savings is what it's calculated so that the savings pays off the money.
Borrowed money.
The borrowed money. So that's how you figure out what you do. So let's say we save $280,000 a year for whatever projects we pick. Then you bond it out so that your savings $280,000, and that's what pays it off over the life of the bond.
And if our costs are $300,000 a year and we're only saving $280,000, then
They
you write us
cover it.
a check for $20,000 every year?
You're welcome. And it's proven, and we've done it, and our reference list is massive. So,
So until we start realizing savings, you figure out the financing that we don't have to pay a dime on that financing until the project's complete and we start realizing the savings.
yes, exactly. Well, you'll start realizing savings prior to completion. Like I said, August 1st, throw in a light, you're realizing the savings immediately.
And I will say now, thank you.
Yeah. So, and this is a preliminary, so we can dig in a little bit deeper. That would be the next step into a detailed energy audit. Okay.
You didn't go to the sewer district, did you?
We did not.
Didn't, okay.
No. I mean, their bills were massive, but maybe that's something we can talk about in the detailed energy audit. If there's something there you guys need to discover, again, we could go through this and workshop every week and say, okay, where are we?
Yeah, I was just curious
Sure.
if you had stepped
Yep.
over there.
Right. So next steps are basic. We've started already with phase one. It's kind of small, I apologize. Open discussions, the site surveys, the prelim. The next step is going to be the RFQ issuance to get a study going, to get a detailed energy audit in your hands. Okay. Past that, we would do the audit, dig in deep, put a nice project together for you, get a contract together. Monitoring and verification, we kind of, after it's done, like I said, we do measurement and verification to prove to you that those savings are happening. And that goes on for a couple of years. You could do that as long as you want. So from this, after the prelim, next step for you guys is to choose your next path. You could put that RFQ out for energy management consulting. I've shared a template with the engineers just to kind of get an idea of how we usually do it, what's out there, and that would be the next step. Any other questions about this? Do you want me to go back to any other slides? In that package is just reading material. Supervisor, I think I gave you most of that at our initial meeting, but I haven't sat with the rest of the board yet. So,
What other municipalities on Long Island have you started implementing projects on?
sure. So we have implemented Valley Stream, we have East Rockaway, we have Lynbrook. Those are done. Okay. Since then, I've come on as the new local government representative, and we are working with, same kind of stage as you guys, with Southold, with Islip. Long Beach is going to do a water meter project, okay? I'm also, right now, we're just about ready to be selected for an RFQ up in the town of Somers. So I've been running around pretty intensely the past 12 to 18 months getting some projects re-earthed.
And how long have you been working with the Riverhead School District for?
The school district, I think we're at phase 2 or 3 with them. Wasn't myself, I do local government, but we have a K through 12 division that Laura's worked with before. They cover everything, and they've done phase 1, 2, 3, 4. We're in like phase 5 with Sachem school districts. We've done Riverhead, Mattuck, yeah.
When I was on the board at Matatuck, we did a energy performance. They started it before I got on the board, and I think they had done originally a 20-year payout for it and ended up paying it off in 8. One of the things that is nice about this is when they do their report, there's a timeline for your savings. So sometimes some things are 18 years, some things pay off in 2 to 3 years, and you can choose to do what you want to do, or choose to do some, or all, or none. So say if you wanted your savings to come out, say LED lighting will pay for the cost of whatever that is. And that may be paid off in 4 years. Where you may wanna take a boiler or something, and those tend to pay off in 12 years. So you can choose out what it is you want, how you wanna pay things off, and where you want it to kind of end. You can still bond it out longer, but you can choose off what you want, how quickly you want it to start capturing the savings on it, which is nice. And generally, you tend to, I think, before I left, which I don't know if they've implemented or not, I know you guys had come in to talk about a phase 2, to do some other projects, because it's difficult to do all the projects at once, because it's costly, and you wanna make sure it's working. So I don't know if they've
Yeah, I
implemented.
think we're at construction on phase 2 for Matatuck.
So it was very good. I would like to check with Riverhead too, see how they've made out with their energy savings. Obviously, they did well if they're going to a phase 3 already.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, it works. Like you said, it works.
Yeah,
You just gotta choose the right items,
that's right. So, and what you're comfortable with as far as your payoff period.
Sure. Southold, just an example, they wanted to get new windows in their town hall. We tried, we couldn't do it. It was gonna hurt the project. We call that a wish list item, If the savings are so good, again, a 4 or 5 year payback on an 18-year finance, you can throw some cool stuff in there, like maybe parking meters and water meters and stuff. It's under the complete umbrella of that project and the payment plan. It works out pretty well.
Well, I know you're talking about energy efficiency and all
Sure.
that, and that's always a good thing, especially in today's world, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of infrastructure problems as well. I mean, so like you're talking about solar and stuff like that, but I can tell you now that there's roofs that need to be completely replaced. Like
Sure,
the
right,
police department, that's a $600,000 job, is to
Right.
replace that roof.
right.
So,
I'll
is
speak.
that built in too?
Yeah, and that could be, I'll speak to Southold again, their highway department, we're putting solar on it, and we're changing the roof too, because it fit in there. As long as we get the right numbers,
Right.
the right people, the right project, the right financing, it can get put in there. So it's a good way to get those infrastructure improvements. Can't do everything, but
That's why sometimes you
Yeah.
phase some of it in, because you have to make sure that savings is realized when you're doing it. Otherwise, it doesn't work, and it doesn't work for the budget. So if you can realize the savings and, phase 1, phase 2, and I'm imagining that the solar that you have put up here, you've looked at the roofs and that they're capable of sustaining the solar that
Yes.
you've projected.
Correct,
And that's
yeah.
why there's no solar on our roof or on the police station at this point.
you're correct.
So that would be without that capital outlay for the roofs.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not gonna put solar where it doesn't belong.
Yeah, you can't put polish on the shoe without soul on it, so.
Yeah. And
So
I'll, sorry.
So Valley Stream, East Rockaway, and Limbrook are complete, or they're?
Those
in
are complete, yeah, they're in, I guess, year 2 or 3 of M&V, measurement and verification, yeah. And that was my predecessor, and now we're moving into local government,
So the
once it-
projections on the cost and the projections on the savings have all,
Yeah, no problems.
met.
Oh, yeah, surplus.
It's guaranteed in the contract, though.
Yes.
Whatever the savings are, if you come up with a plan, you project, if the plan is, say, take the whole thing, and the projected savings, let's say, of 300,000, that is guaranteed through the contract.
It's in the contract.
It's in the contract, so that payment is in the contract.
and you prepare the bid specifications for the contractors, or does our engineering department do that?
For the subcontractors,
Yes.
well, there is no specific bids, it's just kind of chosen, but the specs are determined through the town, us, our recommendations, what's best. Again, vendor neutrality, subcontractor neutrality. So
Right,
it's a
so-
team.
We have a procurement policy, as I'm
Mhm.
sure you're aware of, and anything that meets a certain, or that goes above a certain threshold has to go out for a request for proposals from contractors.
Right.
So how do you?
The
if
New York
you-
State energy law allows you to comprehensively put all of those contractors into one project. You don't need to go out to sub bids. It's one scope, it's sole source, kind of becomes sole source, the energy performance contract. Because one thing depends on the other.
So do these contractors come off the state contract or the state bid, the general construction contract, or it has to do separately with an energy
It's up to you. If you want to go state contract specifically, you can. If you want to go local guy who does boilers, you can. Yeah, it's a procurement method to promote energy efficiency. And they made it kind of easy to do the procurement. There's no need to really go into the weeds. You choose your ESCO, Energy Services Contractor, they turnkey it, they run it with your assistance, you know.
And then how do they get around the whole, well, not get around, but we have union employees that change out light fixtures and things of that nature. So how do they avoid grievances from the unions by bringing in outside contractors to perform union work?
If you want to bring those union contractors in, that's who we will use. It's not up to us to decide. It's up to the town to decide who they ultimately want to use.
Union. I'm talking about our local town union,
Fine.
CSEA.
Yeah, I mean, we're happy to use them. You know, I mean, you might get into some.
Yeah, you can use town employees to do some of the work.
that too,
It's
yeah.
that's not an issue.
It just seems like a lot for all the light fixtures to be changed over and everything, and I know that our, lighting guys are busy on different
Well, that's-
projects like street lighting and things of
That's
that
exactly
nature,
why,
so-
that's why, exactly why you do something like this, so that you can realize the savings.
So you bring in outside people as well.
Correct.
TV.
It's a team
Over the YT
project.
section, okay.
It's, we make sure we don't cross any lines, the integrity, the ethics. We want to make sure you're using who you're comfortable using, who you want to use. Again, team project. Best, you could bring somebody in, but if they're going to be totally inflated, it's not going to work for the project, so, you kind of monitor that, so. But thanks for the question.
How long do you anticipate the next phase would take to complete?
So if we start, we get an RFQ.
Based on what you
yeah.
presented here?
Right, of course, sure.
We still put out an RFQ. We
Right.
put that out to the general public, and then we see who comes back to present. If Johnson Controls is one of the people that comes back to present, and then we decide who we want from the RFQ. And then, okay,
Yeah, so the timeline is up to you. I mean, throw it on the street as soon as possible, select someone as soon as possible, then we work into the detailed energy audit and develop the project. Rush through it, but, I mean, I know there's some compelling events that you guys need fixed in the basement here. We work out, a project development agreement, maybe we can get those boilers done before we, go to contract and say, hey, if it doesn't work, you just pay us for the boilers and we're good. So compelling events, things you need done post haste, we can jump in, but.
Give you a list.
Yeah. But as far as timeline, we can do RFQ, get it selected. Energy audit, we could start probably implementation, with the weather, February. Once we go through all the process of financing and procurement. Again, it's up to the town. I'll be here tomorrow.
Before next heating season.
Yeah, and that's what the boilers, those would be in there, I know that's.
So we're gonna balance our priorities with the savings. We're gonna look at our priorities and the savings that we want.
Sure, yeah. The savings kind of dictate what gets done.
can you forward us an example of a project that was done with the savings and how something that the town could look at, maybe from one of the other towns, how they could cherry pick what they wanted or what they didn't, total project, that kind of thing, just as an example?
Absolutely, yeah.
I think that would be
And in the
helpful
RFQ template, there's a, recommendation of 3 projects that we've
Okay.
got. So, yeah, so,
Okay.
and we just, for summers, they needed 10 projects. So we have plenty of items I can share with you guys.
Okay,
Happy
and then,
to do
and
that.
maybe just a couple references if you wanted to speak to somebody over at some of the other projects?
Sure.
We could do that.
Absolutely, yeah.
also.
Yeah, I can send those out. I guess maybe I'll send those over to John. and
That would
he
be
can
perfect.
distribute them.
Yep.
Okay, good. Great.
Anybody else have any other questions? No? All right, Chris,
Fantastic.
thank you so
Thanks
much.
so much.
I appreciate this.
Great, The audit's always a good thing.
Tim, were you on the board when they did the energy audit stuff over there?
No,
No? Had they done one already?
not that I'm aware of, no.
I'm surprised at the senior center, he said is so high.
The electric use there, between the kitchen,
That's what I'm
commercial
wondering,
kitchen
has all
and
the cooking in there?
ovens, well, most of that's
Walk-in,
probably gas,
walk-in freezers and all that, yeah,
yeah.
All right, so we'll call up for move on to the next item, which is the special permit, Real Life Church.
As opposed to what? It's not real
We have Jeff Murphy and Greg. Diane, did you have one of these? Oh, we got one. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
And the booth.
The booth. Good morning, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Tyler Fox from JM2 Architecture, and with me is Pastor Matthew Greco.
Hi, how are you?
We are here for the Real Life Church on Dogwood Drive in Wading River. I'd like to distribute our site plans that have been submitted to the town.
Oh, that's nice.
So you can see what we're doing. We can pass it down.
There is an old, there's like an old, yeah, what is it?
So our application, if you're not familiar, we have right now proposed a about 2,900 square foot addition to an existing about 2,500 square foot church on, like I said, Dogwood Drive in Wading River. Our proposed addition has a basement, and if you read through the report that Greg was trying to type up, it'll explain the process or the project a bit more. We're asking for a special permit for the pre-existing non-conforming use, which is a church or house of worship. We're in a residence 80 district here in Wading River.
Yeah, I mean, I'll pick up. So, yeah, we've got the church.
Can I just, how long has the church been there? How long has it been operating in a non-conforming use?
For about 40, 50 years now.
The church didn't have an LPE or a certificate of occupancy when I went and looked at the building department files, so I'm unaware exactly when it became a church. But I know it's been in operation.
Yeah, it was originally a parts manufacturer for plane out of Grumman.
And obviously you haven't been there for 45 years.
No, we've been there for 6.
There was a church back in '82, I remember that.
That's correct.
All right, so yeah, so the main, the side of the work is, there's two main church parcels, which is located on the east side of Dogwood Drive. Those two parcels combined have an area of 1.996 acres. The church also owns what I'll call I refer to in the report as a satellite parking area, which is located on the west side of Dogwood Drive. That satellite parking area is 0.38 acres. Now that satellite parking area is currently improved with basically a single-story frame garage, which is used as storage for the church. When I was looking at the parking calculations, and one of the most critical aspects of that satellite parking area is that satellite parking area needs to be retained in order for the church to meet their parking requirements for the site plan. There's a section of the code, I believe it's 301-231H. I'm sorry, 301-231.
H, yep,
Yeah,
you're right.
H, which allows off-street parking to be provided for the site as off-site as long as it's within 200 feet. One of the things that I spoke with town attorney, Mr. Kazakevich, about, it's critical that the church retains that parcel. If they ever go to sell that parcel, they would be underparked. If they ever go to sell that parcel for funding for other projects that they'd like to do, they would need to apply for a variance from the zoning board of appeals, pay any required fees that may come with that. It may also prove problematic if they cannot meet the required parking on the site. If they do sell that, people may start parking on Dogwood Drive, which is not something I think we really want to promote.
Can you conjoin the parcels with a road in between?
Well, yeah, it's, the section of the code, 301-231H, basically states that as long as the parking is within 200 feet of the main use site, you can utilize it as satellite parking, which is something they did, I believe, with Farm Country Kitchen, if you're familiar with that. They used a satellite parking area.
You could do a deed restriction on the property across the street saying that if the church ever wanted to sell it, that it could only be used as a parking lot, or it can only be used as a parking lot in accordance with the church operation.
Correct, and if they ever want to sell it, if they ever entered some sort of lease agreement where the church basically gave up their rights to that, to utilize that parking, that's something that we could implement, and that's something that's very important for the site plan application.
What is going to be in the proposed addition?
New sanctuary space, and really the purpose of the project is to add additional children's ministry, student ministry space, because we're heavily populated kids ministry, young families, so we need additional space for our children.
Is there any kitchen proposed?
There's a small kitchenette that's proposed on the first floor, the ground level floor of the building that will be added into it.
We have a proposed kitchenette, though, the health department, we're not using it for any food preparation or
Correct.
any kind of, merely where people would maybe just store
Storage.
lunches and their lunch if need be. There's no, like, utilities or ovens.
So
or
it's just a
anything.
sink and a refrigerator
It's
or
just a
Correct.
sink and
microwave?
refrigerator.
Correct.
So no
Cabinets or-
gas, no
No.
stove, no oven?
Really?
And then I'm just curious about the traffic on Dogwood Drive during your hours of operation, because I know that the town has had to put traffic guards in place in order to cross people, so I'm just curious as to what the traffic is on Dogwood Drive during your hours of operation, and whether or not you would be providing the crossing guard for the people to get from one side of the street to the other.
We have at times when we're doing special functions, provided our own traffic safety. We do not on a weekly basis on Sunday mornings because there is not a necessity for it. There's very little traffic outside of us on a Sunday morning on Dogwood Drive. But when necessary, we do have a parking team and everyone that's involved to provide that.
So what kind of special events are you talking about?
We do different, we do carnivals, we do kids' basketball camps, we do a vacation Bible school where we have high numbers of children. And at times, those children are crossing the street to use the bathroom and different things like that. And so when we have those events, we actually have a gentleman in our church that owns a valet parking business as well as a security business. And so he provides traffic control during that time.
Just to clarify, those special events, they're taking place on the satellite parking area? Or would they be taking place on the main church parcel? You mentioned that they're crossing.
They will be taking place, right now, currently, the way we're set up, because we don't have a parking lot large enough on our main site, they take place on our satellite site, or sometimes on both. But when we have the larger parking area, we'll be able to contain everything on our main lot.
And just so the board's aware, during the site plan process, I did speak with Gio from the Highway Department. My recommendation was that if they're gonna have this satellite area, they should have sidewalks along it, park it, put striping across the street,
A crosswalk.
pedestrian crosswalk, appropriate signage, saying pedestrian crossing. Gio was, in favor of that, and he supported that.
My other question, for handicap parking, will there be handicap parking in here or only on the main site?
I believe the site plan proposes the handicap parking on the main site. Right now, there is, I believe, 2 handicap spaces over here. It doesn't seem appropriate to have handicap parking on the satellite area and
I
have them,
agree, I
have them
agree.
cross
No,
the
just because I've noticed over there, it's been kind of difficult for people to get across. I just wanted to make sure they were on this
Yeah,
side.
but they are proposing handicap.
Across from the funeral home, correct?
No,
Uh,
well.
Down-
it's
down
down the
low.
road.
That side
Yes,
street.
Yeah, it's down Dover Drive.
Yeah, the
It's the first building like on your right.
Right.
Behind the community general.
So you would be proposing curbs and sidewalks on both sides of the street, on your street frontage?
Yeah, that was part of the highway comments. Any existing curbing that's broken needs to be replaced. They would be providing curbing on the sites.
Okay,
And maintenance of it ongoing?
Yeah.
well, once there's a
If it-
curbing and a sidewalk on town property and in the town right of way, then the town takes responsibility for it.
Actually, no, it isn't, because that was part of the stuff we looked at with the snow. It's actually the responsibility of the owner, in front of it, to maintain it.
To maintain, yes.
But maintain and repair,
The curbing and the sidewalk?
correct. The curbing, I don't know about, but the sidewalk, yes.
I don't think so, not with the
To
curbing.
clear it, not necessarily
Nope,
to
to maintain,
repair it,
to
right?
maintain and repair it,
Really?
yeah.
You know, just kind of,
That should be a condition in the approval anyway, if it's not in our town code. I don't think that I'm not sure that our town code reads quite clearly that they're responsible for the repair, maintenance, and replacement of sidewalks and curbing.
I don't think it's it may not be the curbing, it's the sidewalk.
they're absolutely, yeah, I mean, snow removal, that stuff.
But-
I'll research the code,
yeah,
I can
you
get,
can look
I'll
at it
find
again, yeah.
clarification, and we can get the answer.
Yeah, I'm curious, because I know we had that debate.
Because I was surprised that
years
they
ago,
were,
about
that
that.
they were, Bob, they're in charge of maintaining it and,
Our code seems to place the onus on the owner to maintain and repair sidewalks. However, from a liability standpoint, we all get brought into it, obviously.
Exactly. I mean, we just paid a claim on State Road 25 from a sidewalk that a property owner didn't repair the sidewalk, and I think we paid $35,000 to somebody that fell and tripped on the sidewalk, so.
I mean, the
Anyway.
liability issue is always there because it's town property.
right, but in our code, we do require the owner of the property to maintain and repair the sidewalk. That is what is in our town code.
But GO does go out and do.
We
repairs.
we assist, absolutely, but the onus is on them first.
Yeah. And I think you're right on the curbing, that's a different issue.
Yeah.
because The curbing becomes considered part of the roadway.
Correct.
I just wanted to speak briefly about the surrounding area as it relates to the landscaping plan. Both parcels are bordered on the northern side by a LIPA transmission line. The main church parcel on the eastern side, if you look at page 2 on the staff report, you can kind of see how the parcels are assembled. The large parcel behind the existing church is also owned by the church. That will merge and they will become one parcel. The larger parcel to the east of that is a vacant residential lot right now. The area to the south of the main church parcel is right now an undeveloped town-owned paper street known as Front Street. You know, one of the recommendations that's coming through site plan review is there should be a 2.5-foot dedication along the southern property boundary, just in case that road ever gets built out. You know, it won't be an issue with the dedication to meet the 55-foot wide right-of-way standards for the town. The applicant is proposing landscaping along the frontage with 25, which will provide an attractive screening. Landscaping along the northern border with the LIPA transmission lines isn't really necessary, but they are proposing some trees as well as to keep the existing vegetation. Through the site plan process, staff had recommended that they put additional trees and landscaping on the eastern property boundary, just in case that vacant residential parcel is ever developed. There'll be some measure of screening to
Be
screen it.
nice big trees by the time it's developed.
Yeah.
How do you get it, I mean, that's,
And there's no, right now, there's
No
no
access.
access to that
Yeah.
church. I mean, it's, you know, it's just kind of looking forward that one day if that
I'm
lot
familiar with
ever
that
gets
area.
developed.
Yeah, but there is no, yeah,
Yeah.
right, there's no access to that residential.
Just going through SECRA, the action is an unlisted action. Coordinated review is recommended between the planning board, town board, and zoning board of appeals, as the action will require site plan approval, a special permit, and several variances. I have distributed a resolution for the town board to request lead agency status and circulate the request for that. As I stated, there are several variances. They'll be hammered down once I speak with Brad a little more clearly, once he kind of revises the site plan to its final state. But they'll require variances for impervious coverage, building within a required setback, utilizing that off-site parking, being that the church is not technically a permitted use within the RB80 district. Just so the board's aware, any variances required will need to be obtained by the applicant prior to the town board acting on this special permit application. You know, in the staff report, I detailed the number of items to be considered by the reviewing board. As I stated, one of the most important things for the site plan and the special permit is the retention of that parking lot across the street.
What is the proposed impervious surface coverage?
Right now, we're proposing approximately 35%, which is really the asphalt for the required parking.
Right, where 15% is permitted, and you're
Exactly.
asking for 35%.
Correct.
And there was also, now, being that the improvements on that satellite parking area were done, I believe, prior to Mr. Greco operating his church there, I'm not exactly sure when they were done. The impervious coverage was significantly over on that lot, so that also needs to be considered. They need to go to the zoning board. I believe the impervious was upwards of 80% on that. Basically, the entire lot is, paved impervious.
Do we have any idea when that was done?
It was done between, using Suffolk County GIS, I researched some aerials.
04 and 06.
It was done between 2004 and 2006.
And who did-
It was done without any kind of building permits, it was done without any kind of site plan approval, so I'm really not sure who did that.
And not done by this applicant. And not done by this applicant.
We speak about emergency conditions, the proposed expansion of the church will require installation of a sprinkler system, it's gotta conform to all building codes, so the building will be sprinklered. The
In
width,
fact, I don't think we're proposing sprinkler, type 5B in our building drawings. So I'll have to-
I believe there was a comment from, the building department. I believe it said it may require installation of a sprinkler system.
Are you seeking any variances for the parking?
Well, we weren't until it was recently brought up that we will have to recalculate the parking based on the children's classrooms that are proposed. We have, including the satellite parking area, we do have enough spaces. Once we further calculate, we will. But on-site parking, we do not.
No,
So how many total spaces will there, how many are there now and how many will there be?
right now, there's probably like 8 or 9 or 10 spaces. The parking lot as it exists is extremely small.
Okay.
On the current lot, on the main lot.
Right. And how many are in the satellite?
I believe there's 22, 23.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And you're looking to go to what size?
On the main church parcel right now,
68.
68 spaces.
And the satellite to stay at 23?
Yes.
Yeah.
And everybody will be gathering there at the same time? So currently you have about 33 people going there and there's, at one particular time at a gathering, and then the gathering's gonna go up to almost 100, 90 to 100?
Now, one of the issues that I brought up, and I spoke with
God is
Brett.
good.
I know, but it's a residential block there.
I did speak with Brett Hammond this morning, because when they had initially proposed the site plan, they did not include the, gathering areas in the basement of the church as their, in their parking calculations. But there is a section of code, I believe it's 301-231B, which basically states that in the presiding body, who's ever going over it, which would be the planning board, in their discretion now. When I spoke with Mr. Fox previously, he said that, when you're coming to the church, you've got these children areas in the basement. They're not necessarily going to be extra cars. If let's say a family comes to the site, husband and wife with their kids, husband and wife are gonna be upstairs in the church, the children will be utilizing these spaces in the basement. So it's not necessary, the planning board can give them some sort of relaxation in terms of the required parking. It's not like Johnny and Timmy are gonna be driving their vehicle at 7 years old to the site. So that's something that the planning board, through site plan process, we can sort of detail and hammer out.
So, I'm
There's no way
showing,
they can come up for 25 for the parking lot? There's no,
For 20, no, it's about 375 feet.
Yeah, no, it's
You mean
not
25?
on the corner.
25,
No,
yeah.
it's about 375 feet north of 25A.
Right.
so it says that the total parking required is 88 spaces, that's without the basement?
No, I believe that 88 spaces
Is including the basement, yep.
Okay,
Yeah,
and then the total parking provided is 68 spaces.
Correct, on the
on the
property.
main side.
So,
20 feet across the
I'm
street.
at 91.
91.
Right, including across the street. So we
Right.
will have the required amount of spaces utilizing the satellite.
So, I mean, I think this is quite it's a big impact on the community, traffic-wise.
and
So I think
you're
that-
asking for variances for
That needs to be
everything, for
considered
setbacks,
in
for.
the secret.
Right, so just to clarify, the amount of patrons that are using the church really will not change.
Right.
The addition to the church and the additional parking is to really accommodate all the patrons that are utilizing the church. So that's what's,
What is the size of your congregation?
We currently have about on average 150 in attendance on a Sunday morning.
Wow.
But that's families.
No, that's 150 in total.
Right, that's what I mean, that's what I mean, it's not
Yes, yes,
150
no.
families, it's 150
No, no,
people.
correct. We've grown in 6 years. We've grown from 7 people that were there when they were about to close their doors to the size that we are now. But it is mainly families, young children. We have on average about 50 to 60 children every Sunday morning. So it's a lot of young families, a lot of families coming together. We have on average around 100 adults, sometimes fewer than that, on a Sunday morning. And it's divvied up between 2 services. Well, because of the size of our space, we've had to go to 2 services. We'll remain at 2 services when we move into the new building. So that's divvied between 2 services, generally about 75 or so between each service.
So service space is not increasing. So where you hold your services, that space is not increasing.
Well, they're building a new sanctuary.
It will increase.
So that's what I'm saying, so that will increase to accommodate how many people? That's what I'm saying, well, you'll end up with 91 cars there at once then,
Well,
as opposed to,
they're trying to accommodate what they have.
I understand, but
So,
sometimes you outgrow a space for the community
Which
in
is
that
what
spot.
they have done already. If
Well,
they
that's
started
what I'm
out with
saying.
7 and now they're up to
They've
150.
outgrown, right, they've outgrown their current space, they wanna create, and in fact, it's gonna do an improvement, if you've seen that area, it's gonna actually be an improvement to that particular neighborhood, I would think. But you don't anticipate, because you're building a bigger and a better sanctuary for your congregant, that it's gonna impact the neighborhood any more than you're impacting it now.
Well, it will, because they're a growing church. So they're looking to grow so that each service can accommodate more people.
All churches are looking to grow.
But that's what they're asking to do. They're asking to grow on a residential block and almost, you know, triple their cars at one particular time, maybe twice a day.
I'm sorry, how many years did you say passed between 7 in the congregation and 150? How many years was that?
6.
In 6 years, you
We,
went up from 7 to
our biggest
150.
consideration is the fact that we are in a residential community. It's the reason why we are putting our parking behind the building. It's the reason why I specified to the architect that when we design our building, that the height of it is not overwhelming. Even the exterior of our building is done so that it looks more like a residential home than it does an office space. Because we want to respect, we've done a lot of ministry and built a lot of relationships within that neighborhood right there for that sake. And I think if you were to have any conversations within the towns of Wading River and Shoreham, you would hear kind of what we have been able to do within that community and the impact that we've had. So our first concern is to take in consideration that we are within a neighborhood with families.
Plus you're buffered. I mean, you've got to the north of you, the power lines.
Correct.
With that buffer. You've got to the
Businesses to
east
the
of you is a residential lot that's just landlocked. And then to the other side, to the south of you, we have a commercial corner. So
But coming out from Dogwood onto 25A is a challenge.
Well,
It
they
is
do
a
it every
challenge
Sunday.
with-
They've been doing it.
It's a challenge without traffic. Now, you triple the amount of cars coming out at one particular time when service is done,
they
twice,
have the-
possibly twice a day. I just think it's something that we need to consider
I
when
know
we're,
that,
when
but-
we're studying the.
And then for secret, that'll be.
Yeah,
studied.
I just think it's
just
something we
because
need
they're
to look
building a
at,
new
something
space
you need
doesn't
to
mean
talk
they're
to
gonna get
people in the
3 times
community
the cars,
about.
that's all.
Well, it's like one of the,
Yeah.
like if
Yeah.
you build it, they will come kind of thing.
Well,
and we don't
God
know.
help us. I mean, I hope that would be the case, but that's not always the case.
By the way, somebody's running a great children's program there.
That is,
Obviously.
that's our strong suit.
Now,
I think
does your congregation tend to come from within that area, or?
We extend as far as Fort Jeff Station, Riverhead, Cotchog, Center Moriches, Manorville. But the majority of our congregation is from Shoreham, Wading River.
I think you don't have a fellowship hall, part of this design?
We do not, because our sanctuary will double as that, with the ability to have chairs that move around, because we don't put permanent pews in.
Okay. I think you cut yourself short in the kitchen, by the way.
And my other question as far as
Should have a stove.
community outreach, just, have you held any community meetings about this, or reached out to the community over there,
I'm
other
right-
than your congregation?
I work closely with I'm on a town council right now for Shoreham Wading River with several school board members, as well as the Wading River Chamber of Commerce, the Shoreham Civic, some different members in the community, which this has been spoken with. We work closely every single week with Little Flower Children and Family Services. I was recently elected to the board of directors for Little Flower. So there is a ton of community involvement that our church has had over the years, local businesses, everything. So many people are aware of this project. We have shared it through social media to the town, involved them in, and so it's not unknown to our
But I'm
community.
just kind of curious if you had any public meetings where you've invited the public to come in and kind of say, this is what we're looking to do here to expand this. I was just wondering if you've gotten any community feedback that way.
Not at this time, no, we have not.
So will the secret analysis be done as far as the traffic coming out onto 25A prior to going to the zoning board or prior to coming to the town board for the special
I
permit?
mean, we can make sure that that's looked at
Right, well,
before,
just,
we'll make sure it's done to the board's satisfaction before we move forward.
Well, we do lead, you have to still, you're still recommending town board's lead agency.
Correct.
And if lead agency, if it's unlisted, we can do our scope of what we'd like
Yeah,
for
I'd just be
secret.
curious as to, I don't know, I'm not that familiar with Dogwood. I am closer when you get up to 25A. I'm just wondering about the people that live on Dogwood and what challenges they're going to have to be getting out onto 25, and also your parishioners and the safety of them who are traveling in an easterly direction from Dogwood, because the traffic seems to back up right there, all the way down to William Floyd Parkway. So I just am curious about that. At one time, in a 1989 study that the town of Riverhead did, there was a traffic light proposed at that intersection. So I just.
You may have to go left out to go up to the light, you know, instead of
And-
coming,
and some do.
instead of coming left out of the
Some
church,
do,
you may
yeah.
have to make,
Some
may
go down
be
to
no
the-
left
make a
turn, and you may
right,
have to go right to go all the way up around, but that's just something I
Then
think
you're
that needs to be.
bringing a lot of traffic through residential neighborhoods also.
That's why we'll let somebody else.
Your
speak.
services on Sunday at what times?
9 AM and 10:30.
Oh, okay, so everybody's out by noon?
Yes.
Well, as you,
Yeah, no, we
Well,
finish,
who's the holiday?
we're generally about an hour to an hour and 15 minutes in length.
Certainly the biggest challenge is gonna be in the fall when we have traffic there.
We have,
well, you've
we
been
have
through
seen
6
that,
years of it, so
we
it's
have seen
nothing new.
that.
You may have to
Sometime, yeah.
keep everybody there till about 6.
You go west to come back east.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
And I also want to just touch upon the variances, again, the front and, the front yard setback variance that we have proposed. If you see on the diagram here, the front yard is not changing. The front yard variance is to have approved where the existing building lies now.
Right, I see that.
And is there a current certificate of occupancy on the structure?
No.
No.
No certificate of occupancy or LPEU, which, looking at the building department files, I was kind of shocked that wasn't there.
Yeah, I mean, for your own safety, you want to get a use permit for what you're using it for, and make sure you have adequate insurance to cover it. I would get a use permit right away, because God forbid something should happen and you have use as a single-family dwelling, and then,
Yeah, so all that information is completely, I was completely unaware of, because of the fact that it was a church prior to us being there for some odd years, and it was about to close its doors, and we came in, stepped in to kind of revitalize it.
And you own it?
Yes, we do,
Real life church,
correct.
as opposed to what?
Real Life Church is out of Colossians 3:3.
Okay.
It says, "For you have died to this life, and you found your real life hidden in Christ Jesus."
Okay. Because I wonder what was the opposite of real life church.
Fake life? No.
Civil service.
All right, so just to clarify, we will get some traffic information, we'll analyze those traffic impacts before we move forward. Did the board have any other questions?
Well, there was no lead agency determination.
Well, no, I have a resolution to be considered for the next, I believe, next Monday's meeting.
So leave it all until lead agency is chosen, and then when lead agency is chosen, we'll have we'll make our secret determination, and then we will do our scoping at that point. I think that's right, correct, Jeff? That's how we're switching it over? We determine who lead agency is, and then we determine what the secret is, and then we do our scoping after that. So I wouldn't have anybody
Don't do
start
anything until that resolution is
till that
out and
resolution
we
is done,
circulate.
correct.
All
So
right.
that everybody's on the same page and people aren't doing work that may not be requested.
All right. board have any other questions?
I'm just impressed with the amount of people you brought in, because I know
Thank
when you started out, it was on its way out. And I've heard very good things, and I know you've been doing a really good
Thank
job
you.
up there, so
We,
kudos to you.
As I got to meet with the supervisor, we love serving our community. That's our passion and our purpose. And so any way in which we can do that and continue to further that.
And the
is a
emphasis on
heartbeat.
youth is special, too.
That's,
Yeah, that's in my heart, that you're affecting the next generation, which is.
I was a children's pastor
And what's
for
the chapter in Colossians
12
again?
years.
What's
So-
Colossians what?
Say that, Colossians 3:3. I was a children's pastor for 12 years, and so that's our passion, to minister to kids and their families. So, thank you.
Very good.
That was my life.
Thank you, dear.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for your
Thank
time.
you.
I was a youth leader when I was young too, one time. We got into this business.
Nice seeing you here.
It's nice to meet you.
You as well.
Yes, thank you all.
You're welcome.
That's a lot of kids.
It is,
That's
very nice.
impressive. I used to be
No,
I used to be a
that's
Sunday
just me.
school teacher.
Am I hearing?
I was a
Oh, I
Sunday
was too.
for many
I can
years.
never tell.
Yeah.
20 years.
Okay, we are
Okay.
up to the Senior Citizens Advisory Council, 2018. We have Joe Packard. Ray, did you want to come up for this?
Joe Mover and Shaker Packard.
Morning, Joe. You're welcome to come up, Ray. Hi. There's always a way around it, too.
Long time no see.
Oh, my God.
A few hours.
How are you, Joe?
Nervous.
No, no.
I can't imagine you have a nervous bone in
Me
your body.
either.
The hardest working woman I know. Doesn't have time to get nervous.
Yeah, oh, these came out nice.
Came out beautiful. No, I know your pictures in here.
Oh, what happened? It fell apart.
Still morning, good
Yep.
morning.
Good morning. So I'm just gonna have you introduce yourselves, because we are, introduce yourself,
Okay.
because we're filming.
All right, I'm Joe Packard. I'm the co-chair for the Senior Citizen Advisory Committee, and I'm here to update the board on the committee activities for the year of 2017 and going into 19.
And I just wanna say, this is, when we had first come on board and we started out the year, we had said that we were gonna have the committees come in and report off to us, so Joe's been
And just before,
gracious to come in and report off.
I've been on a lot of committees. This is the most well-organized committee and well-run meetings that I've been in. So I will
Thank
tell
you,
you
Ray.
that.
I've said that numerous times,
Thank you.
absolutely. She should probably hold a workshop for our other committees.
Seriously.
I'd first like to start, the committee members are in the process right now of recertifying all the information in our senior resource guide, to ensure when it does go out, it will go out for the year 2018 to 19, that it is as up-to-date as possible. The plan is to start distribution to the senior communities, libraries, town rec centers, the VFW, American Legion, at the end of May or the beginning of June, as soon as we can start to publish. Publicity will be addressed by your office. Cindy is working very diligently on it already. And it will also be carried on the town website and 2 library websites, we hope. Definitely Riverhead Free Library. We're hoping that the North Shore Wading River will also put it on their website. We have not got a confirmation to that. We're very excited about MAP, My Aging Plan. On behalf of the committee, on the timeless efforts of Dan McCormick and Karen, the MAP, My Aging Plan, an intergenerational booklet is ready to go to press. And I'd like to thank Ray because he is assisting us with that. And it will be available to our residents shortly at the same locations as our senior resource guide.
You've been working on this for a while, but it came out great, because I remember Carissa was working on this
Oh, yes,
before.
this has been a tremendous labor.
But it looks great, it's really filled in quite a bit.
Yes, I would like to acknowledge the Westchester Department of Senior Services and Westchester Public and Private Partnership for the Aging Services for allowing us to copy and adapt this book for our town of Riverhead community. We did receive written permission. Dan ensured that we are, because it is copyrighted, and they are going to receive a copy of this as well. It basically is a guide for, as you age, how to prepare. And I
I have to tell my kids how to learn to save, because I see that.
Oh, yes.
Well, that's what's good about this.
Yeah.
It deals with the whole spectrum of age. It's,
I know.
when you think of seniors, you think of 55 and older, 60 and older. This
I think
booklet.
it's 70 now.
The closer I get to it, I agree with you. But this booklet deals with things that you need to start doing when you're in your 20s and your 30s, and it gives you the guidelines of some things to start planning on that so often we put aside and say, I've got time, you know, I'm young yet, I don't need this, I
I
don't need
see
this.
it all
and-
the time at the funeral home.
Absolutely, Jim,
Yeah.
you know what I'm talking
Yeah, people
about.
come in not prepared.
So that's where this booklet is really good, and Joe did a great job, Westchester did a great job putting it together, but Joe tweaked it to make it more specific to us here in Riverhead, obviously. And it really, I recommend anybody who can get their hands on one to read through it with their family, read through it with your kids. It's just a great source of information and some ideas that we just take for granted, we don't think about, but if you start them soon enough, life is much better as you get older.
Well, and also, I think it highlights that you need a healthcare proxy for anyone who is 18 and older, which a lot of people don't know that because of all the HIPAA laws and everything that's going on, HIPAA laws. You need to do a lot of things in preparation for when your child goes out into the world at 18 if you want to have any say or input into their care or decision-making. But we're very excited about it. Ray is exploring avenues so that we can get it printed and circulated. So this is a very big step for us.
And
Congratulations.
it's also gonna be placed inside the senior resource guide also, a copy will be in
Yes.
place inside that, so there will be access.
One of our next goals for the committee is to evaluate if we can collect resources available within the town of Riverhead for senior discounts.
And I'm putting a shameless plug in for you here. If anybody's watching this that owns a store that would like to offer a senior discount, you could call to
Thank you.
Patrick at my office and let them know, and we'll pass the information on to the Senior Advisory Committee.
Many of our seniors do not know the discounts that are available, whether it be a restaurant, a retail store, any merchant, whatever. And I think we would see an increase in spending possibly if people knew that you would get a discount. So we would like to try to explore the process to acquire that information. And one of the biggest problems is to keep it current.
Right.
Everything is a problem keeping it current because things change so rapidly. Basically, that's where we are. We did take a look at some intersections, and I'd like to thank Jody and the chief because they followed up on it. There were potentially some intersections that the Senior Advisory Committee had concerns about for, not just for seniors, but families with children crossing, and they addressed it, which we're very excited about. And now I understand that your office is taking the lead on it. There were letters that went out to the DOT, and our supervisor has been kind enough to assume responsibility for follow-up on that, and we thank you very much.
No problem.
Thank
Let's see if we can get something done. DOT's wheels move slow.
I know.
But we'll keep plugging away.
It was interesting, yesterday, we were coming out of Lowe's, and I said, stop. We stopped walking. I said, I want to see if I hear anything on, because we do have a crosswalk countdown.
I know, I can't go drive down 58 or walk across 58 without thinking of you, just so you know.
And I went like, there is no sound for anyone who's visually impaired. You know, and there was a concern about that. And I have to be honest with you, I went like, we're not crossing the street right now. Let's get in the car and cross over. Because there is a concern that it is heavy traffic. And not always do our vehicles stop when they see someone crossing and not finishing their
We certainly don't want the
walkthrough.
visually impaired to get in the car and drive across.
And I also thought it was good to, what I noticed in other states, like in Washington DC and in Massachusetts, where they say it's a state law to stop for pedestrians in the right of way. So Chief and I were talking about that also, which I think is important because a lot of people that drive on Route 58 are too busy looking where their store is that they're going to, that they're not paying attention to somebody in the crosswalk.
Yeah, there are a lot of concerns in the area, and I thank your committee for allowing us to attend and bring our concerns, and also your follow-through is greatly appreciated.
That's the traffic safety committee, right?
No,
Wow.
actually, the
Oh,
traffic
Tom.
safety
It should have
kicked
been.
it to
They
turned
kicked
it
it out.
Trans.
They
And
should have been
we-
the one to do it, really.
We took it over.
Yes. So, it was brought there initially, and then we did not stop there. We were determined to hear what could be done, and Jody's committee was more than gracious to invite us there. Are there any questions or recommendations for our committee?
I think we discussed this, and I think this goes to you, Ray, also, is I think in your senior advisory committee, you guys had talked about getting involved with the rec committee also, and either meeting with them, either somebody, a representative from your committee, either to sit on that or to meet with them quarterly, to just meet together and see if there's any issues at any of the parks or any recommendations for different things that we should be doing, you know, as we try to make ourselves more intergenerational and accommodate everybody. I think that cross-communication would be a good thing.
And actually, we did discuss that at the rec committee this week. So we'll be talking to you and inviting you in to share your concerns.
The other thing that the committee did come up with just yesterday, and Ray and I have been talking about it, is that the aging population's needs are changing very rapidly. You're not seeing the senior citizen who sits at home anymore or goes to play bingo. They're much more active, and their needs are very different than what we're used to in the past. So Ray and I have been talking about working together and addressing as our committee. I'm very proud to say Ray is on our committee. That
I learned from her committee, to be honest with you, how to run a committee, to be.
We need to start as a town looking at the changing needs of our community, because we're having much more savvy people tech-wise. They're looking for different avenues for recreation, am I right?
Yeah, very right.
And they're gonna be looking for additional information that we need to start exploring now, so we're prepared.
And getting around better, I mean, medical has been a big part of that with better knee and hip replacements and different, and medications that have been developed, and people are getting around better in their older age than they ever have. So like you say, to go, and Judy was saying this yesterday, to go and sit at the rec center all day and just sit there because you really don't feel like you can move around that much, less and less people are doing that because they wanna go here to this, but 2 hours later, they want to go there to something different, and they're able to do it. So it has changed tremendously, and these are things we discuss all the time at the committee on how to address, and I think our rec and senior department is doing a good job working along with that too.
Absolutely.
Fielding the programs and making them change with the times.
And I imagine transportation coming
Is a
through is gonna
big
be a
issue.
big issue with
Yes.
it. So I think that's something definitely that the committee needs to keep on the radar, because I think as people age, it becomes sometimes more difficult to drive, or it becomes, people don't wanna drive at night. And yet they still wanna be active in doing things in the community that are going on. So how do we address those issues?
I have a proposal, but it costs money.
What else is new?
I know. But you want quality, you pay for quality. No, I think that it is true, seniors tend not to want to drive at night, which is understandable, but I think transportation is a big issue now, and even going further will be even a greater need. And I know that town of Hempstead has a project that I had given you to take a look into. They have shuttle buses, because realistically, our bus system in our town and our community, for me to get to a bus, I'd have to walk over a mile. I mean, it's not feasible to use mass transit. So I think we need to look at more transportation for our seniors and our challenged individuals in our community that may have other disabilities, or abilities, I like to call it. I think we need to look at that, because it would prevent a lot of people from being homebound, and open up a lot of more avenues, and really increase attendance.
Yeah.
So,
We have buses that are, especially at night, we have several buses that we can use. We should look into that.
Yeah,
We
I
have senior
think-
buses that are used during the day, we have the recreation bus.
but
Yeah.
I think we need, how many buses do we have?
We have, it's 5 at the senior center, we have 1. I think 1's out of service, so it's probably 7 total.
Because I think what we need to do is, I don't think that's a well-advertised,
Well, they're not running in, there's no, schedule at this point. I think this is something, I think what Ray is saying is that we have vehicles. It's not set up to do this kind of
Well, we don't have the
program at the moment, but
Yeah.
that's what I think,
We have
what the
the
thing is,
assets,
how,
we have the ability.
yeah, we have the assets, and then how do we
Can
capitalize
we
on the
work
assets?
together
Yeah, let's use
because
the assets.
I know that a lot of people who live, that I talk to, that live in Calverton, Baiting Hollow, near the Flanders areas, to go to the senior center for an exercise program, which everybody loves, the chair exercises, yoga. It's a big number, it sells out in the library very fast. It's, for them, sometimes it's am I right, Diane, a hardship to get there.
So I think I think this is definitely something great to look into. I think, because it's large, I think things like this start well as a pilot program. So if you pick a few activities that you think
Well,
might be helped by having some transportation, if you guys wanna discuss it in your committee, we can then bring it to the rec, see how, what kind of programs they have, and then it goes to the Alternative Transportation Committee to try and figure all of this out. So everybody comes up with ideas, the committees work together to come up with a solution, and then.
Well, I think a good idea is if we could do like, a schedule where we pick up at certain seniors' communities.
But I think that's where you pick, you
Yeah.
develop a
Okay.
pilot program, or you look at the one in Hempstead, get what their schedule is, see how they do it, see how we can model it on a scaled back, to try maybe, a 2-hour-a-day kind of thing, for a period of time, see how the pilot, you work out the kinks in the pilot, and then this way you know how to invest the resources.
Because we do have buses that pick people up and take them to the grocery stores and to
Yes, we
things
do.
of that
Right, but
nature,
we're talking about
so.
other
We
things.
did something years ago with the youth, similar program, we picked them up at certain areas at night, so maybe we can look at that model again and.
Well, gotta be event-driven.
And then figure out where you're gonna take them to, because then we
I was
gotta,
gonna say, maybe do it around, pick a couple events.
Polonese
bird
Park
dinner,
every Friday
4
night.
o'clock.
Yeah, you could do.
Polonaise Park every Friday
You
night.
could do the music concerts at the park,
Yep.
for
That'd be a
two
great
out of the
pilot.
summer.
Jam out, have a
And
good
that may
time.
be a good pilot, because it's centrally located.
Plenty of parking,
Well, it'd be a drop-off, wouldn't it?
draft beer, only kidding.
Joe, you brought up valid points, and I've heard from within the community that people who wanna take the bus, some of them actually, just to get to the stop that picks them up, they're not able to get over there, so, we do need to work on that. And also, I do have to mention that at the rec committee the other night, we had a very high-energy fellow that brought us this great idea for recreation, and he's 90. So, your point about seniors being much more active nowadays is correct.
I'd like to thank the board for supporting our Senior Citizen Advisory Committee, and I'd also like to especially thank Ray for his assistance in a publication of our map, My Age. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you very
Joe.
much.
Thank you,
Thank you
Joe.
for all the hard work you do.
Thank you.
And to your committee also.
We're gonna make them, they'll distribute them, but I'll get them to you, so.
Yeah, I'd like some in my office.
You absolutely.
oh, that's
Take it
great
to
now.
you.
Yeah, well,
Thank you.
Yeah, we should put some out here on the.
Yeah, no,
Out here.
Gee, I could've got
push it
you-
around.
I
It's
could've
great
got
to
you
have it
advertised
out
at
there.
the table.
Ray, do you wanna stay here, and then we'll do Ray, and then come back to Dawn? So,
Oh, you mean.
Ray,
Yeah,
we
we're
have you
fine.
for the concession bid, and then also,
That's
I
the
just have a
one that
question.
people don't do.
Summer salaries, is that
Yeah.
something also that you're addressing now?
Yeah,
Okay.
we could do that right now, it's,
I think that somehow it got put on for exec,
concession bid
it's not an
you're talking
exec,
about?
it's, discussion.
What's that? Okay. This is the right one. Okay, this is the current resolution we put in for the summer salaries.
Oh, this is on,
Yeah, basically what we did the same format as we did in January.
this is under executive?
Everything was condensed to the format the supervisor liked, and And it was adjusted, we didn't really have to adjust too much with the salaries, just anything that, minimum wage is 11, so our minimum would be at 11. So you can see the categories combined, so it's just much cleaner. So summer rec program aide, scorekeeper, they get both paid $11, the starting salary. And then we do the 2% increase year over year if the positive valuation.
Shouldn't it be employees returning, shouldn't it be in those who come back after 19, or after? So you're giving a 2% increase on these salaries?
From the previous year, returning from 2017 to 18, they would get the 2%.
If they're returning to the same title, if they're going to a new title, then it
Same
would be the
title, and they
starting
have to
rate.
fit all the criteria. It's the same thing we do every year. But since we don't have the format we used to use, we just put it in there, so when that comes over, you'll know that they received a 2% increase.
I think what Jody's saying, if somebody is a summer recreation program aide, and then comes back as a summer recreation aide 2, they will not get 2% on.
No, they have to be in the same exact job.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like beach attendant,
Yes.
year over year like that.
Okay.
Jody, I knew you always asked, so I brought it, this is last year's breakdown. So this way you have it, if you wanna look at it before the resolution, it shows you the rate from last year, and you can see where we changed it. Sorry, that's the copy I had, I was writing all over it during my
You
meeting.
had your pencil out again. You must go through some pencils, I have to say.
Oh my God, yeah, several a day.
Where?
What's the question?
What's WSI?
Water safety instructor. Yeah. There's the one, they're the ones that teach swim lessons.
Yes.
I can't tell you how much simpler this new one is.
Simpler.
It's easy to do.
So we can take a look at the executive session then.
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Okay, all right, we'll go run right over to the snack vendor. Every year, we put out the bid for manning our facilities, snack vendors. We actually added this year, we're adding mobile food trucks to, you get everything?
Oh, yay.
To some of the locations, we just, especially Veterans Park, we manned it ourselves, and it's just becoming,
It's not cost effective there.
it's not, we're breaking even. It's hard on the employees to get employees. Plus, we're not serving what I would like to serve, and to do that, we would need the Suffolk County permit, and it would be a lot of renovations. So Ashley actually said, why don't we do food trucks at Veterans Memorial Park? They can come in.
We don't allow food trucks in the county.
Right.
So that's part of
Right.
our code, so we
That's
just have to
the-
look at that.
Oh, we can knock that out then. Mobile units, any mobile units, or?
You know what, we can, let's see if we can
I didn't even know that, I'm sorry.
adjust that.
All right, but the only one I put it on is Stotsky Park and Veterans Park, so I can just remove that.
Well, no, let's.
Well, you tell me what you wanna do,
Let us,
Let us tweak or
Let's-
look at the code, because
Tweak it as part of the
You
bid.
can't have a vendor's permit to go sit on the corner of
Right.
Roanoke and Elton and sell hot dogs.
Anywhere.
But I think parks with this.
This would be only during events, it would
it
be
could be
right,
a
yeah.
mobile vendor.
Right.
It
the
gives the,
concessions.
yeah, it gives the resident, participants something more than just ice cream and.
I think we should have hot dog trucks.
I didn't know, I'm happy you brought it up, I didn't know
Well,
that,
no,
yeah.
that's all right, but maybe we need
We can,
to
we will.
Yeah,
we can-
we've
house to
discussed
allow
this.
for that in those particular areas through the
Right.
bid or whatever.
Are you gonna move the stand in, cause I had met with them over at the parks about putting
Yeah,
the
they
food
told me.
trucks there. Are you going to keep that shed there, or are you gonna let the trucks go into there?
We'll let them go over there, it's a huge area, the staff recommend they would like to put,
Storage there?
storage in there.
I think that's a
yeah.
fantastic.
And then if the truck guy wins the bid, he wants to come in and use that front area to sell out the window there, we can allow him to do that, but for the most part, we need the room over there too.
Yeah, what they use for the food vendor, for the.
At Jamesport?
No, at Veterans.
Veterans Park,
Right,
that big house
so
in the middle.
The big house in the middle, they can't really, they can only serve, they can't do much out of there, so, but all of their equipment is way back in the shed, all the way behind the fields over there, so they wanted to keep line equipment, things like that, in the middle there to make it easy access, so they
Makes
could
sense.
use that for easy
Yeah,
access
yeah.
for doing the,
It's just
from
easier for the
storing
park
them there.
attendants and everybody that works over there, to have to bring everything over every day, so.
Now, if we could just change it to a bathroom, we'd all be all good.
I want a bathroom in the worst way, you know that.
Why do you
And
include the pocket parks? Is that for the ice cream truck?
Yeah, basically, the beaches would be the next category. I switched it all from last year, just how we broke it down.
And lights.
Oh, yeah.
It's mobile units for the beaches, for the most part. Wading River always has the same ice cream guy. Reeves, they don't get much, but we allow a mobile unit over there. South Jamesport and Iron Pier, we have facilities that they could use, and I put that in a bid. Iron Pier is very small. South Jamesport is a nice unit, but the problem is we don't have it set up where they can satisfy the county permit. So if they want to do something, maybe we can work a long contract in and they can renovate it for us.
Oh my gosh,
So I
I've been
just
talking about
left
that
it
since I
open.
got elected.
Can we,
Yeah, I know.
like,
Mashit Beach North, that's what we need to make it.
Yes.
I know.
Well, that's my question. So you're having a couple of concert series at Jamesport Beach.
Yes.
So for something like that, will you allow bid for several mobile vendors?
Yeah, we're hoping
to be present for
somebody
that?
comes in and says, I want this beach, this is what we're gonna serve, and that
But
would
what-
include all the concerts, yeah.
But what I'm saying is, say it's something like that, are you going to allow several vendors to, like, will you allow, if you want somebody to come for the daily business, right? But for special events, will there be an exception where several vendors can come?
Whoever wins the bid has exclusive rights for the year for it. That's the way it's set up.
But is that from dawn to dusk? Can we close it off when you have your events at 5 o'clock to allow us, that is outside of the realm of the vendee? And so that we could have more than one or two trucks there? Because if you're going to have, I mean, you're trying to put a couple things at Jamesport
Yeah.
Beach, do you have a couple of the other beaches? You have a couple
We
things
do
at
some,
Stosky,
yeah,
right?
we do the movie at Wading River, we do the movie there.
Right, so when we,
Stosky Park, we do
right,
a lot of
so
events.
when we do that, we should be allowed to, charge a vendor fee and allow more than one truck to come to those events.
Okay, that would have to be probably put in here.
And
This
we've
I mean,
had
when
problems over the years too, where trucks have gotten the contract and then they're never there.
They don't show up, they find it's not
That's why we
cost
have the
effective.
ability, if these guys are not showing up, then we can bring in somebody else, but.
And then I also brought you that one guy that said that in his menu, he was gonna charge $3 for an ice cream and he was charging $5.50, so.
Oh, we got rid of him pretty quick.
Yeah, so there's gotta be checks and balances with these mobile trucks.
Well, I think they could submit the menu and their pricing to us,
Yeah.
and they'll guarantee to keep those through the summer.
We better get going, it's
We
middle of May here.
man the beaches for the last 3-4 years because we always have problems with the outside guys coming in. They come in, they say, well, we're gonna do this, this, and this, and then I don't know if it's worthwhile for them during the week. We don't have a lot of people there, so they start not showing up. That's why I said mobile units. So they come daily and they can service that. So we're hoping this will work out this year. This is the first time in years that we put it out there again.
What about, like, I mean, I know, like, Martha Clara has events where they have several food trucks go to and things like that. What about just asking them for how they, use that as a contract, and maybe we can just.
Okay, yeah, the more the merrier,
Well, that's
More
not a
options.
permitted use in the code for Martha
It's-
Clara to
it's-
be having food trucks going there.
And I'm not talking about Martha Clara, but they have a contract when they allow more than one vendor of food trucks to come on their property for events. I'm sure those food trucks have to sign something, and just as an example for Ray to look at, if you were to have a concert series event, and you wanted to allow more than one vendor there, right now, he's just doing it as a sole vendor, so if you wanted to allow, say, 3 vendors.
I understand.
So that's, I'm
So
just
there
telling
could be a
to-
clause in the contract for special events where, we're expecting a number of people that one food truck probably couldn't service the amount of people that would be coming to a special event.
Right, but any food truck that wants to come was saying that they would have to still let us know and sign something with us to be at the event on town property.
And pay,
And
yes.
correct, and that's what I'm saying, so just maybe see what somebody else is doing, what the contracts look for the vendors coming in, so you can just, not to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah, the bid does it. I mean, the bid brings people in, right?
Yeah, that's true, for Life on 25, that'd be perfect to find out how they do it.
For the country fair.
One more change to the bid from years in the past. On page 1 on the bottom, I had this put in, the town reserves the right and responsibility to reject any or all bids or waive any formality if it believes such action to be in the best interest of the town. I didn't phrase that, the town attorney did for me. But the reason is there's a couple of times we've had Pocket Park, somebody bid just $100 and they get awarded. I don't think that's something the town should do, to award something for somebody just coming in at a very, very low bid. I think it should be reviewed, and if it's too low, we can reject it or
Yeah,
put it back
I
out
agree.
there.
I think that's good. Everybody okay with that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Sure.
Sounds good.
Okay, everything
Thank you.
else is good.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.
I will
Thank you, Ray.
contact the town attorney and get back to you about the booth.
Okay,
And
thanks.
then code revision, I guess we'll be looking at the town code to allow for these type of, units on town property as per a
I
contract.
think they're okay.
Because there's a lot of delis
Town
and a lot of
property.
restaurants throughout town that get
Borough
really
code.
ticked off when there's a construction project next door and these trucks pull up, and where the workers would normally be going into the deli to buy a sandwich, they're buying it right out of the truck, and it's hurting local businesses.
We're talking about municipal properties, we're exempt from.
Understood. That's why I said I don't wanna eliminate it throughout the town,
No, you're right.
but
Well, right, it'll come past us.
We're still exempt from our own code.
All right, so now we will move on to Dawn. Downtown Revitalization Initiative and Suffocating Downtown Revitalization Program. Steve, did you want to come up also, Joe?
Yeah.
What do you wanna do first?
No, man.
Yeah. Hello, if everybody could just say who you are for the audience?
Lauren Thomas, Community Development.
Steve Schauger, President of Riverhead Bid.
Hi.
Also sit on the, and the Hyatt.
Oh, I said hi, hiya.
Yeah.
Joe Marrone. So which one do you wanna do first?
You choose, how's that?
Okay, so since DRI is on the top of the pile, we can talk about that. That is the $10 million grant that comes through the Regional Economic Development Council through the state of New York. And we went to a training on that yesterday. We applied for it last year jointly with Southampton, and the prior year just on our own. Last year, the grant was awarded to Hicksville, and they're getting $10 million. And basically, the purpose of it is to help you implement all of the things that you planned for all this time, which we have 1,000 plans for downtown. We have our 1998 East Main Street Urban Renewal Plan. We have the update in 2009. We have the town comprehensive plan. We have our BOA, and
now we have an opportunity zone.
now we have opportunity zone. We have a multitude of different things that we've been planning for many years. And so the grant would provide a planning team that would come in and help us with $10 million, so that's not a bad gig, help us get those goals achieved. So, so it's a planning grant, so the nice part about that is we don't have to have concrete ideas, because normally you have to, present a concrete idea and a budget and a way you're gonna get it done. Here, we're basically saying, here's why we're ready, here are the things that we've done in the past, here are the things that we've planned for, here is why those things may not have worked out, but here is why if you help us, it will be fantastic, because it will put all these pieces together and really create economic development and revitalize an area.
BOA study will be incorporated into that also?
Yep, everything that we've done in the past, we tell them why, all the investment that we've made, all the investment that people like Hyatt, Steve, and his clients have made, and everything else that has ever taken place downtown.
Now,
is-
can any of that money be used for acquisition of properties?
That's a great question. We didn't discuss that yesterday.
It's a planning team that comes in. They come in and you work with different planners from the state along with your planning team here. And then the money gets used as necessary. There's not really restrictions on it per se. It's to accomplish the goal of revitalization. So if there were, if you wanted to create more public space, things like that, it's very much encouraged in the revitalization grant. So I think it's very flexible based on the community and how it needs to achieve its goal. And that's really the whole point of the grant, is that every community is unique. And that's why it's not just cookie cutter, okay, you need these 3 things in your community, that should make it work. And that's, I think, the whole reason for it's an initiative to get you to that point. So they're flexible with what it is that you're allowed to do
I know what
with
it
the
is,
money.
I just wanted to make sure that we weren't gonna be doing any more studies, that we're
No,
using the
well,
studies that we've
right,
done,
correct,
giving
yes,
it to the
yes.
planning team, and then they're
It's an-
saying this is how we should implement it.
It's an implementation
Okay.
strategy.
But it certainly is not the planning group that's coming in to do this. It's the community, it's community-based. It's the town of Riverhead, you know, having the resources, additional resources that we don't have now to plan our community for revitalization. So it's, they don't come in
We did it with the
and.
BOA study,
they
we did community outreach, we did it at the Suffolk Theater, we had
That's why we're
billboards,
ahead of
we
the
had
game.
Yes, and
everything.
that's why we're really ripe for this, and we're
Yeah.
hoping, because it got given to Nassau County in the first 2 rounds, that maybe Suffolk County will be more likely recipient, and that really kind of makes our application maybe a little more competitive. You know, we have some basic concepts, getting river access, more walkability downtown, public spaces, recreational amenities, form-based zoning is,
fixing intersections.
Does the-
placemaking,
Opportunity zone help
transportation-oriented
with this?
development. Yeah, absolutely,
Right, this
because.
is a big
yes,
plus.
Oh,
Yes,
that's
absolutely will help with this, because one of the fundamental things is readiness. So readiness is not only our infrastructure, being our sewer, and our planning that we've done, and zoning that we've implemented, and things that we want to do in the future, but also things that make us more attractive for investment. So certainly Opportunity Zone will play into that
Right.
big, and I think it's a big leverage
Timing
point.
was
Well,
really good with this.
the key is the private investment,
Yeah.
because obviously a municipality can't do this on their own. So the opportunity zone is huge for us, because it encourages, you know, private investment that we wouldn't have access to
Correct.
without it, so it's.
Similar to the Empire Zone.
Yeah, and then we're showing them that these, if we put these things together, we'll be able to further the goals and objectives that we've stated earlier, and in addition, continue our economic development based on new and future developments, like Northwell, whatever happens at EPCAL, and
Yeah,
those kinds of
that's
things
great.
would be good.
Love it.
Feeds for the new development,
Mhm.
so I think we're really poised nicely.
You gotta love that
to-
you gotta love that private industry.
Gotta have it.
Well, yeah, and so, and we're really, I mean.
And we've had a
you
lot of
know.
encouraging investment in the town
Yep,
already. I mean, we can
absolutely.
show that we have Conifer coming in, we have the
Aquarium.
aquarium, we have Georgica Green, we have the new, you know, the 2 new buildings
That
going
table's
up.
been set for a decade.
Yeah, exactly, and I think that's really kind of what we're gonna try to portray in that application, so that's the plan for that.
Okay.
So we wanna put,
June
you know, do
1st,
June
coming
1st,
fast and
yeah,
furious,
fast and
so.
furious, so, and just before that, on the 25th, we're gonna be submitting, a downtown revitalization grant that we submit annually through Suffolk County. This will be round 16. Last year, we were able to get lighting for downtown Jamesport, and, also, I get the rounds mixed up.
One is downtown, one we have is downtown, and one is Jamesport for the lighting, but we also have one for downtown. I
For
think that's in the
Heidi.
package
That was
to
the
do.
previous year.
Yeah, a previous
Last year
year
was
to
just
do the,
Jamesport.
right, yeah.
So this year, we had been working with Marty Samlewski and the parking district on maybe getting a quick parking solution. He had come up with a plan whereby we would resurface and restripe the north lot, the First Street lot. And his calculation was we could gain an additional 67 spaces. If we do that, we would remove some of the concrete islands. It's not the, you know, the optimum ultimate parking solution. We need eventually 11 to almost 1,200 spaces based on the BOA study, but that's when we have full build-out. We're not there yet, but eventually that's what we will need. So we're looking at something, and then there's been a few different issues going on downtown. We have the new residential units that have been constructed. They're in the parking district. They don't have to provide on-site parking currently based on being in the parking district. So we're hoping to maybe get that project funded so that we can get sort of a quick relief for the difficult parking, you know, scenarios that we're kind of experiencing now. So we have a match from, kindly the parking districts agreed to $30,000 match. I can come up with probably close to 40 through our CDBG funding. That would get us to 70, and the cost of the project is $155 per hour engineering department. So
Where are we with the engineers that we hired to do the downtown parking study?
So they are, you know, engaged, and we actually sent them the Marty Sanlewski plan, because I said, while we have them engaged, let's make sure that there isn't any, they don't go, OMG, that's not a good idea.
Well, that's where we're planning on putting the parking garage.
Well, you know, and so
We don't want them to say
there's gonna
that after
be-
spending $160,000.
Yeah, and that is an issue, and that was raised by the supervisor, we talked about that at length. We kind of got to the point where we felt that by the time that study is completed, we did move up the dates for the counts, pursuant to their request. They wanted, because we talked at the parking district, they were thinking July, August, they wanna come June, they want more normal parking,
Right.
and then they're gonna give us an opportunity to do our own counts for events, because we're only paying for one count with them,
Okay.
one traffic count, we wanna do less studying, more planning. And they, looked at the Marty plan, and they actually laid it over on an aerial for us, and they said, yeah, it's a good idea to do temporarily. You know, it'll probably be a little more than temporary, because by the time we get the plan and then figure out how we're gonna pay for what they tell us we ought to get, or we get the DRI and it kinda like mixes in with that, this could be done next spring.
Well, the
summer.
grant, when you apply for the grant, the money doesn't come in till when? So if this grant, the money would be, it's almost a year
It's usually
lapse, or
decided in
9 months?
December is when it would be decided.
And then you actually get the money when?
Well, we had to spend the money first, and then we would get it back, but what we would do is, we would be able to spend money starting on the award, and then we go through the paperwork, we get the contract.
But we're talking March almost, because you're not going
Yes,
to
and
stuff
that's
in,
what
so
we thought.
it-
But according to engineering, it'd be, if we were able to begin in March when the weather is, you know, reasonable to do that kind of work, the project could really be done in like 3 weeks. It's really quick and simple.
This is the Marty plan.
Yes.
Yeah, and I understand the push for parking, but I had expressed that it's a concern to me that I believe the Marty plan involves taking out greenery or taking out islands.
Yep, it does. And so it's just basically maximizing our existing space without buying new parking, which is costly. So
And
it
I
is,
understand, it's
you
just
know,
unfortunate to have to take out
The
trees
ti-
and greenery.
The
Yeah.
timing for this is
tough.
tough.
Yes.
This is, I think, I mean, I've talked to you, and I've talked to you, and, you know, you with the park. I think the timing for this is very tough, because we're paying $30,000 for somebody to come in to give us a parking plan.
Yep.
Yet we're moving forward with a parking plan that we already have, and I know that, you know, you're putting up a lot of money, the town is putting up a lot of money as a match, if we do get the grant. So it's difficult, and I know I've spoken to both of you about this, that in the grant, I would like to see some flexibility, for the improvement of the parking spaces. I think that, you know, right now, we have a $70,000 match. I think point-wise, it's a difficult grant to get this go-around. I think we should maximize our points, and we should go with the 50% match, not less than that. You know, if you end up with a plan over 140,000, you're not hitting the 50% match. And I think 2 points in this grant is gonna make a difference,
And it
if
is-
it's
it
so
is-
competitive.
It is 18 out of the 20 on the match, if we do if the cost is 155, yes.
Right, so I would just urge
I
to be
would
caution of
just
the
be
match.
concerned that we could lose points in the project part of it, because if we can get 67 stalls, or more perhaps, based on the consultant's thought, then we're presenting a complete project. If
But
we
Yeah,
break it out.
This is my concern. We have somebody coming in for the parking plan. Let's say the guy comes in, or the woman comes in for the parking plan and says, you know what? I think, you know, and now that I've actually assessed the whole parking district, I'm realizing that I want 15 handicap places in this area over here, as opposed to putting the handicap spaces, you know, on you know, on the you know, a different side. So now you could potentially lose 7 spots. Well, it makes the parking plan work much more efficiently to be able to get to Main Street. You've now told the county that you could put 67 spots in, and you're gonna have to go back and say, oh, you know, we're taking 10 or 15 out of there because we wanna put, it's more efficient for us to have the handicap
Well, we
spots
had a
there.
phone call with the.
So that's my concern with that, and I think for the county, if we say 55 or 56, and we end up at 67, I think it's no harm, no foul, but I think going back the other
From
way.
my standpoint, when I had to pitch it to the panel, the rest of the people on the panel,
Yeah.
obviously it's a little bit easier if I focus on the fact that we could get 65 spots, you know, and that kind of more bang for your buck. There is a certain level of understanding that there's some flexibility, not to say, you know, like we were talking about, we pushed to try to get the dock redone by the Fingers, where the boat ramp is.
Yep.
instead of doing a second ramp. That was kind of apples and oranges. If you change really the number of spots, it's still redoing the parking lot. Like we got, for Love Lane, we got parking spaces last year, for last year's round. And they're not gonna go back to count the number of spots or anything along those lines. But as long as you kind of stick to it, so they understand there's gonna be some minor changes as well. And when is the parking plan set to be done?
I'm hoping, you know, if they do the counts in June, I'm hoping the end of the summer. That would be, you know,
And then on top of that, when we had a conference call with the consultant on Tuesday, they were fairly confident that 67 is a pretty conservative number and felt if we did diagonal parking, that we could even increase that number like even further.
But have they walked it?
No, but they saw an aerial, you know, they all have GIS.
I'm just, you know, I would like I said, I just would not put 67, put 60 in. I would just give yourself a little wiggle room on one spot if you have to, because.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because I saw the plan, of course, I live there, but, because that's my church, but, so I have some concerns. I realize the design now is absolutely ridiculous. You don't know where to turn or where to go around it. It makes no sense why they did what they did, but, so I think it can be redesigned, but I'm not sure getting rid of all of the buffers and all of the trees.
Well,
is the way-
it's not, and like Steve said, like, I don't think there's anybody from Suffolk County that's gonna come and say, you promised us 67 and you have 62. I mean,
Right.
Especially if it comes to swapping out for handicap accessibility
Correct.
based on,
Correct.
you know, so
Or the new parking plan might tell us to do certain
when you,
15-minute, hour parking, you know, there's a lot of things that
Yes,
can change,
yes.
but obviously, whenever we implement it, we wanna take that into consideration.
but when you,
And we're taking that into consideration with everything, even the wayfinding signs, we're talking about parking, we're kind of pumping the brakes a little bit to see what they say. Should you name the parking lots in a different way to make it easier for people to find? So we're
Right.
trying to take that into consideration with everything.
Can we put a couple bike racks in there too then?
if we have the money, we can do anything we want.
But I mean, if we do try, alternative transportation, that we have no bike racks back
we
there.
put
might be part of the
22
match. I know
bike
you can't
racks
do
throughout
benches,
town.
that's not part of it.
No,
But
we
permanent
can't.
bike racks, I'm
Bike
sure
racks
could be.
probably we could do.
Okay.
We talked about, Joe had an idea for that, and also, filling stations for the EPCAL trail too.
Yep.
So, tire filling stations.
So you have to submit a plan when you submit this grant
Correct.
application to
Yes.
Suffolk County, right?
Yes.
So do we have a plan
I
other than the
have-
plan that Marty Sanluski has prepared for
I don't-
67 spots?
I don't have any other plan than that. We did the budget based on that currently, so that's,
I'm okay with
you
that.
know.
Just in talking, there's two businesses, and I'm not gonna name them downtown, but they're longtime established businesses, mom and pop type businesses that are seriously considering shutting their doors and relocating because they need their customers to be able to park fairly near their business. And it's not able to be done right now. So this isn't something we can push off any further. This is something we have to jump on and go with as fast as we can, because the parking is gonna drive some of these, lack of parking is gonna drive some of these
Yes.
businesses out.
I
Especially
agree.
with the
And
apartments
it's
coming in.
extremely sad if something ever happened to either one of these businesses because of it.
So,
It's the calm before the storm.
whatever you would like us to do, we will do.
Mhm.
We'd have to do a little reworking of our budget and our map if you decide to go with less spaces.
I think,
I would like to stay with the 50% match, whatever that entails. I mean, like, and I said to both of you, if you have to take 10 of the spots, call it phase 2. Put that as phase 2, give you phase 1 that you come in at 140, because I think those 2 points
2
are,
points will help.
the 2 points will help us.
Whatever you,
so
whatever
if
you
the,
think.
the
And if we
grant
get another grant in between.
if the award is, you think the award is coming out in December for the
Yes.
Suffolk County downtown?
Last year, they were
So-
awarded in December.
So that's what you've budgeted for as far as the parking district concerned,
So far.
is the 40,000 coming out for,
30 from the parking district, 40 from our CDBG money that we had set aside to spend on the Heidi Bear parking way, Heidi Bear Way parking improvements, which we weren't granted last year, so, we have that money kind of sitting there. And we do have a little money from the prior year as well, but,
you seriously need to look at the, fees that you're collecting in the parking district. As a taxpayer in the parking district, because I own a business in downtown Riverhead,
You should
I
triple
mean, the rates have not gone up, but the needs for the parking district and the old infrastructure has really, put a demand on downtown. So I think that is something that needs to be looked at also.
That's something we're gonna have to talk with Dick Ehlers about and see if we can
Yeah.
reformulate or come up with a
Not
new
that I want my
formula to
taxes to
address
go
it.
up, but,
Yeah,
you know,
we-
I don't want
Well, I
potholes
mean,
in the parking lots either.
It's, you know, it's a thing where are you gonna bond?
Right.
Because to
Right.
create new whatever the parking.
Right.
Plan
Needs
tells
I think
us
it's,
to
like you said,
do.
I think Laura's right, we're in this
It's a tough spot.
chicken and the egg thing. I know we're looking at
Mm-hmm.
different revenue sources to come into the parking district, not only this tax structure, but with fine parking and with the additional enforcement, maybe paid parking and pile-ups and all these mechanisms create a revenue source, which
Yes.
would justify a bond because you justify the money.
Right.
But one has to come first, so we're just in a
And the
metamorphosis right now.
consultant, when we talked to the consultant, they actually suggested that they have some good ideas on the pile-up too, so they're gonna, I sent them all of that, they wanted
It's
to know
just-
all of our proposed legislation, all of our
Like you wanna say.
current
But I'm-
legislation, all of our
Sweeping
regulations,
kitchens,
copies of our
can't get the
tickets,
back
they
door
have all
closed.
that information, all our studies from the past.
I'm pleased to hear that you sent over the parking plan that you're presenting us with today, and that the
Yeah, they were great, they did
consultant
it
said,
gratuitously because,
Go.
yeah, because I just said, let's see if they'll do it, because they're not, this wasn't really what we engaged them to do, but.
Even if we cut,
But it's important for them to know where we're at,
Mhm.
and they were great, they got right back to us, and they did a good amount of work.
even if we cut, even if we reduce the number of spots, I guess we could ask Marty, but I'm not sure if that's going to really reduce the actual budget.
right,
Right.
because you're still gonna be paving it,
Because,
and
Right.
ripping up curb and putting new curb
Well,
in.
I think that's, who gave you the budget?
Engineering.
Right, so it's engineering you would consult with. So engineering should, because they're the cost for it, so if you say, you know, I have 140,000 to spend, it may be just one plot that you don't take out one of the trees there on that plot or something, because I'm sure they have the cost broken down that way.
Yeah, but
Because
we
you
might
got
be
labor
able
and material.
we might be able to get more money from Suffolk County Downtown Revitalization by putting in the maximum number of spots and saying that we,
The grant is by match, so
Got it.
if you don't make a 50% match on, and all we have is 70,000, so if we go over 140,000, we lose 2 points by not having the match.
right, but you're talking about a difference, we're sitting here arguing about a difference of $15,000, 140,000 to
points.
15,000. So I'm saying that the parking district may wanna reconsider as to what they can possibly contribute additionally to make up for that, so that we don't lose the points.
I think they'd have to look at their budget. I think they said 15 from
Right, this
2018,
year and
15
from the
2019
next year.
is what they were looking
Right,
to contribute.
and then also
Can I
the
just-
business improvement district might be interested in pledging some money for the project to
If-
maximize the number of
If we're
spaces.
going to do that, we need, you know, we have to provide, with the grant, proof of those, resources, so we have the resolution that was done at the parking district meeting, they would have to have a meeting, do a resolution, we'd have to have
And it
that.
has to all be in by when?
The 25th at 4:30 PM.
But I don't think that would be a
They've got
problem.
plenty of time.
I mean, how many members are on the parking district? 6?
That are on there? I think it's
Yeah.
full, right? Isn't
How
it?
many show up, or
So-
how many are on?
Well, I'm saying a simple email, you know, we have this
Yes.
problem, so we're $15,000
Mhm.
short, and I would even reach out to the bid.
And this was encompassing of doing the entire parking lot. I think they
Right.
had to shave it down and then repave it. So even the
Just
areas
tell
that aren't.
engineering to give you a bid for 140, call it a day.
Well, we're also, and I'm
Yeah.
gonna
Do your
throw
numbers.
this,
Good thinking.
I'm gonna throw this out there, but
Numbers, I'd rather go over and then.
yeah, but I would rather have a complete project than a partial project.
Right,
I'm gonna throw this out there, but when Mr. Gallo, got the okay to build down on McDermott, build his project, he had mentioned that he would have money that
100,000.
he would be able to, he would like to donate X amount of dollars over, say, a 4-year period to the parking district. And I've reached out to him to see if, his word is good on that, and I haven't heard back. So we're still tracking that down, but that may be another source of some money that we can use. So, Mr. Gallo, if you're watching this,
You said 100,000.
you said it, I would like to see it come to fruition, no pressure here,
I need
but,
a letter, I need a letter saying, but I would need,
absolutely.
I absolutely
Good
need a
thinking,
letter.
Tim.
And Marty, I know you wanted to say something.
One of the things that we had talked about at the parking meeting.
Why don't you come up, so everybody can hear you, even on the
was
TV?
getting, going up to actually.
Yeah, Marty, if you just need to come up to,
Yeah, come on
because
up.
we're on film.
Grab a chair, because otherwise people can't see you.
We had a discussion about also possibly going out to bid, you know, actually doing a bid, as opposed, now, the engineering estimate's very good, and we could utilize that for the grant, but I think in terms of making sure we're competitive, I think if we just did a public bid for the work, and that, typically when I do public bids, we also include a lot of alternates. so we can actually do the bid document. We could even include, you know, the, western portion of the parking lot behind Barth's, the milling and repaving of that area as an add alternate. So this way, when we get the bids, we can accept or reject any of the alternates, and that will allow us to really pin, you know, down the number where it needs to be. Or we could look at the alternates and say, hey, we have to increase the budget by X amount of dollars in order to, you know, in order to meet that, so.
I would just go in my vote would be to go in for the 67 spaces with 140,000 as Jim recommended, and then put out the bids. It may come in even less.
I think we're just under a time constraint.
Yeah,
I
May
just need somebody
25th,
to put that
15
very
days.
tight time constraint, plus we have other grants we're working on. You know, we can put in for, but I need somebody to create a budget that says that, and if, you know, engineering is giving me a real budget.
They will.
No, but I mean,
We'll contact,
asked.
I'll
Yeah.
contact Drew,
I
and I'll
asked for
have
a
him
no
give
for
us
it.
a $140,000 budget, and you
We've
have the
gotten-
budget that, and see where that ends up. I mean, if it's, like I said, if it's, you take out, I mean, 15,000 isn't a lot, you take out the minor things, that if we get a grant somewhere else, it can just ease in smoothly without having to, you know, paving is the big thing, then you put the paving down first, and, you know, we can find that other money somewhere else to restripe a small area or whatever that is.
Because
It's
some
not
of
a
the
big
area
deal.
isn't changing at all, it's not
Yes.
getting, you know, so I think we can make it work.
Actually, I was
I
gonna
think so.
ask that, Marty, does the plan take out all the islands and all the trees back there? To
what
get the
we had
maximum
done-
67?
Yeah, we had created basically a new, entry point. When you come in off of Roanoke Avenue, when you get to the end of that driveway, which is First Street, when you get to the end, the, idea would be to put a stop sign there, directly in front of you, where you now can choose to either make a left or drive through and make a left. That would be blocked off with a new island. That would have signage that would indicate, you know, the parking, requirements and, you know, the color of the
Time
spaces
limits
and
or
the time
whatever,
limits.
right.
And what about walkways? I mean, that's my other concern, is now you have a heavily trafficked area, where are the pedestrians walking? Behind the cars?
Yeah, basically, it's, they're walking through a parking lot, absolutely.
Just as they do
But
in the school
is it,
district.
what size did you make the spaces?
These are all 10 by 20s.
10 by 20?
Yeah, these are all 10 by
Right.
20s. I think the ones along the back fence might be narrower, I think that was done quite a while ago. And then we didn't have, but we then created 2 islands by the East Avenue entrance also, just so that you're not entering on a parking space, so to speak. Yeah, all of the other islands would be gone, all of the, you know.
So all
and
the
I-
islands with the trees and the
Correct,
whole back
correct.
parking lot would be gone?
Absolutely. You know, we've had discussion about it, and people brought up the concerns about, well, you know, we're not gonna have trees in the parking lot and this and that. And realistically, downtown, we need parking in this area more than
No,
we
we
need trees.
need parking, but I've
Right.
just watched in my lifetime in Riverhead,
Right,
I've
right.
seen, you know, we take trees out, then we wanna put the trees back in.
Right. You know, the other
That
point
may
is, the other
when we
point
get
is
there.
that everybody's always talked about if there were ever a parking garage, it would generally go in this location sometime in the future.
Right.
And if that happens, then, you know, there'll be no trees then either. So
Correct.
it's really, you know, I think it's really in this case, now, not in all cases, but certainly in this case, I think it's more important to give precedence to the parking spaces versus the
Absolutely.
trees. That's just
The need is far
Yeah,
greter
and-
than.
And that was
also-
a position that we officially took as a parking committee when we
I think we
reviewed
can
the
do
plan, so. That's our recommendation.
Well, I think
That
that's
was
why,
my
that's
hope.
why
That was
it
my
would, the
hope.
timing is so,
Well, these islands
so
can't
bad on
freeze.
this,
I mean, it's
because
not gonna be a big
not
part
having the
of it.
people coming in that we're paying to do the parking plan, that could address that in an effective manner is, you know, not great, but the parking plan will be done before the money is spent, so there is room, you know, at that point, if the islands are, you know, it's something that's important to us and something that we wanna keep, you know, that's kind of where I was saying, the little room on the flexibility for the number of spaces might be more prudent, but,
Well, I know we have an executive discussion on something that might be some money coming in, that might be able to be earmarked for that too.
I'm fully on board that we need parking, but I agree with Jim, it'd be nice if we could
Well, I think
figure
we
out
can do
some
both.
way
I
to
those
do
islands
both.
that you're putting in, more or less for direction, so people aren't,
Well,
So I
and
think that-
landscaping,
I-
you know, nice signage,
so you're
landscaping.
not jumping into
sort of-
it.
At this
so I
point,
think we're putting the cart before the horse. I think you need to do the grant, I think it needs to be done for the parking spaces. I would recommend doing it at the 140,000, so we get the 2 extra points. Is everybody okay with that? It's giving
Unless we can
direction?
get the 15,000 extra before the 25th. Then we just put in the,
Well, we also need yeah, if you can get everything before then,
Yeah, but
but
Yeah,
I
I
don't-
mean, listen, if we could get that
I think you
solved,
guys have
we
been
would be
working
more
very
than a
hard
50% match. It would be
and we
perfect.
haven't been able to get there, so, and I know that there's a lot of work, and I know that the downtown revitalization is a huge initiative that we need to concentrate, and staff needs to concentrate on also.
Yep.
So we'll leave that to your judgment, for
Okay.
your time constraints
then-
as to what to do.
We'll work the 50% match, and then we'll,
get the other 15 before you submit on the
if
25th.
we happen to be fortunate enough to get that, then we'll leave it, and if not, we're gonna have to tweak it so we can get it down to the 140, and I'll leave that up to the experts, but
Good.
And are you sure? It might be, the match might be less. I think it's 20% you need to match, not 50.
So,
It's different points.
we looked at this just yesterday,
They
cause
changed it?
it's, yeah.
Because for the signs, we got 65,000, and we only had to, bid had to put 13,000 towards it to get complete points.
So it's 50% or higher is 20%, 20 points. So
Okay, so they changed it.
if we did this, we would be in the 18 range.
Yeah, I think they're making it more competitive, that's the,
So, and, you know, the good news is that one way or the other, we're close to the top amount of points we can get for the match. So it's not like down here.
I'll be honest, this way, I mean, it's gonna be a lot less competitive with the amount of people, because match is the hardest thing.
I
on
know,
this.
that's what I'm
So,
saying.
you know, before, you know, last year, you know, if you didn't have 20, it was very difficult. Now, even if you have 18, you know, people are gonna be down, trust me, in the 7s and 10s with points, if they change the match like this.
And the other thing I wanted to ask you too, which is important to them, because they were asking me about round 9, and I had sent everybody an email about round 9, which was the boathouse, which we really have to probably cut loose, and they are penalizing us for open stuff now. That hadn't been a problem in the past, but now they are.
Is everybody aware what that is?
Yes.
Okay, so I am okay with foregoing that,
Cutting it loose, okay.
because you've looked, there is not a place to spend the money.
Yeah.
The situation has changed since 2009 and what we need to do for downtown, so I think it's gonna hurt us moving forward. I think it's that we need to, unfortunately, not avail ourselves of that grant.
If we can, you know, figure a way to do something for another round, we'll apply again and we'll do it that way. But I think they're very, you know,
Yeah.
where we were into getting our paperwork all square, they, at the same time, fortunately, have a new person who's also into getting their paperwork square. So, and Regina was very, you know, adamant that, I think I forwarded you the email from her, that, you know, we really need to move forward and leave the past behind us.
Yep,
so.
okay.
All right?
Very good.
Yep.
All right, thank you
Nice
very
work.
much.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Luana.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Steve, thanks, Marty.
Yeah.
No problem, thanks for all the
Kathy,
work
you
you've
wanted
done
to
with
make-
that.
With
Oh.
the resolutions, but did you wanna
Yeah.
do that? Okay, go ahead.
I just wanted to make a couple of announcements. I had spoken to, you guys individually. Out of the Ag Advisory, we had talked about possibly doing a tour of some of the farms. Rob Carpenter would head it up, and I wanted to set up some dates, just to see the operation of some of the local farms, and I wanted to set up some dates, but first I wanted to see if people on the board were interested.
I'm interested.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Include breweries in that tour?
It is, it is part of it.
Come on.
Not if it's in the morning, Tim.
All right, only after 3.
Jim, you're on board?
Yeah, I want to do
Okay.
a lot of them, but I don't mind going again.
And the other person that had reached out to me, and I want to bring that up, was Thaddeus Hill from the Timothy Hill Ranch. I'd also asked if we might be interested in coming over and taking a tour of the ranch.
I've been there, done that, but if you would like to see it, I would suggest you do as new members.
I am fine with that.
Tim?
I spent a lot of years working
And Jim,
that I
you've been
was
there
there,
before?
so.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I'm
Put a
very
lot of kids
familiar
back
with
and
it.
forth
All
there.
right, so I'll work on those two events, two things. Thanks for letting me bring them up.
And one other announcement, that we had got caught, I should have had Dawn while she was here, and then we'll take a 5-minute break, just so everybody knows.
Yes.
We were contacted by the Regional Economic Development Councils, the REDCs, and they are looking to host a meeting to explain about how to do the consolidated applications for different grants for different state agencies, and they asked us if we would host it here for the East End and for the West, at Riverhead Town Hall here, so we agreed to do that, so that'll be on Wednesday, May 23rd, at 9 o'clock, in the room here.
Do we get credit for a couple of points towards the?
I am hoping we
Okay.
will. It can't hurt, you
No,
know?
not at all.
What do they say, put your best foot forward? So,
There are flyers out front on the table.
on the table out here. So we'll take a 5-minute break, come back and do, resolutions.
Good.
All we only